The protagonist appeared. His name was Ju In-gong. His parents named him that hoping he'd become the main character of the world. Because of that name, Ju In-gong endured countless teasing as a child. But Ju In-gong thought to himself, it's fine. I really do want to become the protagonist. Ju In-gong, panting, pushed the door open hard. Both people in the shop exclaimed together, oh, the main character is here. Ju In-gong, looking uncomfortable, replied, stop teasing me. Do you have the game or not? The blonde-haired guy answered, unable to hide his excitement. Heh, I knew you'd come, so I saved a copy for you. Looking at the game card in his hand, our protagonist Ju In-gong couldn't help feeling quietly pleased. This was the remake of Night Saga Re. The story takes place between the human realm and the demon realm. Players choose a character, either the human hero Locke or the second son of the demon king, Zephyr Ragnarok, then wander the world to fulfill a predetermined purpose. Indeed, this was exactly what In-gong had been waiting for. I've played Night Saga more than 10 times since I was a kid, so there's nothing about the characters, locations, items, or events I don't know. I've even experienced it vividly. Moreover, this was the first game released in virtual reality format. After buying what he wanted, In-gong hurried home to try it out immediately. Eagerly, he pulled the game card and inserted it into the console. The next important step was putting on the VR headset. In-gong gently pressed the game card into the console to start it up. Then, finally, In-gong lay back as comfortably as possible to enjoy it. He muttered to himself as he prepared to start, I'll probably take it easy and play for about 8 hours today. Instantly, In-gong's mind was transferred into the game. A strange new space appeared, making him exclaim in surprise. Ha! In-gong had taken the form of Shutra sitting on a long chair. He hadn't had time to gather himself. My mind is in the game already, and a proper game should start when you wake up in bed. His appearance had also been updated, and he wondered in astonishment, but looking at himself once more, still puzzled. Who is this character? A voice from outside cut through In-gong's surprise. You're still asleep at this hour? A tall elf leaned in to remind him to hurry. Get up. There's something to do this morning. Shutra inspected the character before him with obvious delight. The graphics are insane. It's just like real. The elf didn't understand what he was saying. Graphics. Hearing the elf speak made In-gong even more excited about this unique mode. Can you really talk back directly? The ads never mentioned this. Still confused by the elf's information, Shutra asked, right, what's your name? The elf, surprised by the question, replied, what are you saying? Have you already forgotten me? Karak? Shutra repeated, Karak. Karak stepped outside, not forgetting to remind him carefully. Come on, everyone's waiting for Prince Shutra, so hurry up. Hearing him mention his identity made him ponder the new name. Shutra must be the 9th son of the Demon King Shutra News? I haven't even picked a character and I'm already Shutra? To confirm his guess, Shutra opened the system menu. Let's open the status screen and see. Seeing the stats displayed on the screen made him exclaim in awe. Oh, there we go. But Shutra was a bit dissatisfied with such a mediocre start, frustrated by the low numbers. Do I have to use Shutra for the first playthrough? A mediocre prince who feels like an NPC? Shutra opened to view more details about the equipment he could use. Let's see what skills are. Purity rank LV1, Protagonist adjustment LV1. These special skills gave Shutra a bit of hope. He thought happily to himself, conquer with Protagonist adjustment. Could this be the Protagonist adjustment I was thinking of? Karak, seeing him dawdle, urged once more, hurry up and get out. Shutra replied, yeah, I know. He followed him outside. The scene before Shutra left him so stunned he couldn't speak. In front of him stood a regiment of elves lined up in perfect formation. The silence and professional seriousness made Shutra curious. So he asked Karak, why does it feel so tense? Like war is about to break out? He thought Shutra was joking and brushed it off, telling him to focus. Stop fooling around. Let's move out. Karak added more about their mission this time. We have to deal with the Reds. He went pale in shock and asked again. What? A loud rallying cry rang out to prepare for an upcoming glorious battle. Come on, let's go on our first sortie. Still unprepared and mentally alarmed, Shutra panicked. Wait, a sortie? Where's the newbie tutorial? He hadn't even fully understood the enemy before heading out to face them, the rebellious Red Storm tribe, and he was supposed to join the 7th prince and the 8th princess to put down this rebellion? Shutra looked ahead in confusion. He was a bit concerned about their small numbers. Our first sortie and only 10 people are going? Karak, tired of his bewilderment, explained again. I told you yesterday, it's just a reconnaissance, so we don't need many people. Shutra then understood. Oh, I see. Suddenly he felt his body uneasy. He wondered, did I eat something wrong yesterday? Why do I feel so strange? Shutra calmed himself and brought up the available screen to check. Fortunately, he had a mini-map to ease navigation. So there's a mini-map. This will make things easier. Turn on the always-on view first. Shutra examined carefully and noticed something interesting. There's a hidden path here. Probably an event. Karak, still stubbornly studying the traditional map, said, then turn over there and go this way. That route takes too long. While he was still puzzled, Shutra volunteered to lead everyone. Follow me. I know a faster shortcut. So the whole troop fell into formation and followed the route he indicated. There they discovered another base area. The elves diligently climbed the cliff faces to get higher. Shutra was no exception. Like them, he climbed tirelessly until he was drenched in sweat. After a period of effort and persistent endurance, they found the gate leading to their destination. The stone gate looked very sturdy. Karak marveled at Shutra's discovery. How did you know about this place? Are you a mage? The prince, too exhausted to breathe, replied curtly. What mage? He anxiously asked him. Are you okay? You look really drained. Shutra, panting and pale, hadn't expected this. I didn't think a level 1 would have such poor stamina. Shutra forced himself up and stepped forward to check the stone door. Whatever. Let's see if this door can be opened. When he stepped up, a strong flow of spiritual energy flooded his body, and he could feel it. Shutra gaped in astonishment and asked, what is this? Power surged through his body, and a voice rang in his ear. You have leveled up. Because of this strange event, Shutra hurriedly checked his own stats. No, this can't be. I've only walked a bit and I've already leveled up. Sure enough, as he suspected, the numbers had all risen. Several stats increased by 2, plus bonus points. This is ridiculous. Shutra was still stunned by the experience and stood there blankly for a moment. Karak saw his odd behavior and called out loudly, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. Shutra immediately replied, yeah, I'm coming. From that point, he felt increasingly empowered and confident for the upcoming missions. I don't know what's in there, but since I'm not going alone, it should be fine. More importantly, Shutra held the death immunity card tight, which made him more resolute. Protagonist adjustment LV1. If the protagonist falls into a chasm, he won't die and might even encounter something fortunate. After going deeper inside for a while, they encountered a large cavern. Karak immediately offered a guess. It looks like a tunnel dug by dwarves. Hearing that, Shutra was a bit surprised. Dwarves? Are there dwarves in the demon realm? He added some information. Not now, but I heard there used to be. Did the whole clan migrate? Who knows, I only heard stories. After traveling a fair distance, they came across a large cache of gold and silver weapons left behind. All the elves, delighted by the treasure, told each other, fortune from the heavens. Those stupid dwarves ran off and left all their weapons. Shutra eyed the pile warily, while the greedy elves happily started gathering everything up despite the weight. Although there were many different items, to him none were valuable. Level too low, strength insufficient, magic lacking. Damn. After hesitating a bit, he decided it was better to take something than miss out. But anyway, better to store it. To store an item in the inventory, he only needed to lightly touch it with his hand to recall the object. All the weapons were neatly stored in the system inventory, making hauling and keeping them easy. Just as I thought, touch and think store, and it automatically goes in. A danger alert flashed on the minimap. Shutra noticed it immediately as he skimmed the screen. He quickly sounded the alarm to everyone. Everyone, fall back. Cracks began to form from strong impacts, startling the elves as they looked over. In an instant, the ground where they stood exploded as if in a great battle. In the tense moment, the red demons appeared suddenly. Kaichan, leader of the Red Storm tribe, sneered at the elf contingent. Did you think we wouldn't know you were blocking this place? Kaichan ordered his underlings forward. Kill them all. A chaotic melee erupted between the two sides. The elves did not yield to the red demon's onslaught. Shutra stood silently in place for a long moment. In this tense situation, a bold idea suddenly occurred to him. What now? Should I try to get the finishing blow to gain experience? While the two sides were locked in continuous fighting, Shutra slipped behind a red demon. He hurled his full strength in a sneak attack while the demon wasn't paying attention to him. But Shutra's cheap sword couldn't withstand the force and snapped in two, leaving him helpless. Kaichan turned in anger and glared at him with blood-cold eyes. He went berserk and began chasing Shutra to settle the score. While fleeing at full speed, he unfortunately tripped over a rock. Shutra pitifully tumbled to the ground. The system screen began flashing a red alarm, startling him. HP 1/15, MP 5/5. Kaichan had caught up, He was ready to finish Shutra with a single blow. He immediately screamed in terror. In that life-or-death moment, Karak intercepted the attack and saved Shutra's life. Straining to hold him off, he urged Shutra to stay safe. "What are you doing, Prince? Run." Shutra froze at his chivalry. He watched the clash between Karak and Kaichan. Shaken, Shutra tried to keep calm. He reassured himself, hands still trembling. "It's just a game." After that heart-stopping moment, Shutra couldn't take it any longer and decided to pause. "This is too much. Let's stop for today. Want to open the menu? It's too realistic. Who can handle this?" He opened his personal info screen. Age 14, race Gondherv, trait Prince, role protagonist, strength 7, constitution 7. But Shutra froze when he noticed something important. At the bottom of the skills section, only one line appeared. No skills owned. He became alarmed at the oddity. "Huh? What's this?" Shutra scrolled through the main page but couldn't find the essentials right now. Status, equipment, inventory, skills. Why wasn't there a logout button? He sat down as vague. Worst-case thoughts filled his head. Could I be trapped here? Kaichan charged at him again. Full of fury, his body was suffused with dark power and supported by astonishing physical strength. Kaichan shot like an arrow toward the nearby seated Shutra, raising his weapon. Terrified by the suddenness, Shutra nevertheless steeled himself. "No, I can't die here." Kaichan struck his body with an attack, a tremendous shockwave that made the ground quake and crack. Shutra gasped but tried to pick himself up, refusing to yield. In his sight was still Kaichan, eyes fixed on him. He showed no mercy and continued his frenzied assault. Die. After the hit, the protagonist's life immediately hit bottom. HP 0/15 MP 5 of 5. Shutra seemed to drift into another space. He recalled past events and blankly wondered, "Where is this? I was just skewered by those orcs." A horrific thought crossed his mind. Could I be dead? A place emitting a strange light drew Shutra's curious gaze. As he approached, a voice spoke to him. "You who still exist carry the fate of this place. Conquer it." A resplendent goddess appeared and made him an offer. Make them submit and then dominate. He was bewildered, not understanding what was happening. What? Shutra looked up once more, but the beautiful goddess had vanished after delivering her message. Shutra was returned to the chaotic battle he had just been in. The elves were weakening and being overwhelmed by the red demons. The demon commander Kaichan swaggered forward to inspect the outcome. He spoke with contempt and challenge to the elf army. "Only this many troops and you still dare come here? Are you innately stupid or were you trained?" Immediately, he cruelly ordered his underlings. "Don't waste time. Kill them all." Seeing the wicked face of the demon Kaichan again, Shutra was stunned and couldn't believe his eyes. What's going on? Was I just awakened or something? He couldn't hide his surprise at seeing him revive. "How can you be?" The system screen issued an important notification to Shutra. Learned Psychomotive LV1. He was bewildered by his newfound power. "Since when did I have psychomotive ability?" His eyes fixed on an unusual line on the screen in surprise. The screen clearly read, Subclass, Conquest Knight LV1. Shutra reread it in bewilderment. Conquest Knight? Kaichan didn't hesitate and barked to his men. He shouted, "What are you standing there for? Kill that brat first." Karak couldn't sit still either. He was worried. Prince Karak ordered their entire force to devote themselves to protecting their lord, to guard the prince, and not let him be harmed. Faced with the tense situation, Shutra understood he should do something too. He glanced at the system screen hoping to find some help. Another skill listed on the screen caught his attention. Subclass, Conquest Knight LV1. In Knight Saga there is no such subclass as Conquest Knight. Shutra widened his eyes in amazement and wondered, "Why is that?" He planted the flat of his sword on the ground, and a strong spiritual aura quietly emanated. As if he'd known it all along, chants echoed in his head. Shutra's gaze now held firm resolve. The power of conquest is the power of kingship. After his decisive words, all the elves seemed imbued with strength. Royal Banner of Subjugation. The skill Conquest Royal Banner of Subjugation LV1 granted a buff effect to allies within a certain radius. The elves felt the bolstered power. They cheered with joy as strength surged. This time they were no longer fearful or weak. Karak ordered the whole force. "Wipe them out for me." They surged forward and attacked the demons like a storm, forcing the demons to struggle. All the elves charged with remarkable bravery and might. In an instant, the bulk of the red demons were slain. Kaichan was alarmed and suspicious at the enemy's sudden shift. What is this? The enemy suddenly got stronger. He couldn't believe what he saw. This is impossible. The brave, invincible elves advanced toward Kaichan, leaving him flustered. Seeing Shutra shining brightly made him somewhat suspicious. Could it be him? Kai-chan couldn't accept this harsh reality and stubbornly attacked again. I won't let this stand. He remained unshaken in the face of the Red Demon's leader's fury. Karak stepped forward to take his blows while Shutra stood behind, supplying spiritual power to him. The two coordinated seamlessly. He shouted loudly to rally him. Push through. Charge. Karak then surged forward with strength. Kai-chan hadn't time to collect himself. He only managed to utter a cry. Wait! A clean slash from Karak sent the demon commander's head tumbling down. The other demons trembled all over when they saw their leader fall. They fled in panic, but the elves were determined to capture them for revenge. They're running. Don't let a single one escape. A notification was sent to Shutra. The valor of the commander belongs to their king. Then came a steady stream of congratulatory messages. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. He looked at the screen, unable to hide his joy. Leveling up non-stop, Karak stared at the power he now wielded, wondering, what exactly is this power? His eyes grew deeply moved. Karak turned to look at Shutra as if he had realized something. In his eyes, Shutra seemed like a savior and the perfect answer. Could it be the prince himself? When the battle ended, the elves began pitching tents and lighting fires. Shutra still refused to give up searching for a way back to reality. He fumbled in frustration. Nothing. I've looked everywhere. There was no logout button in the menu, but panicking wouldn't help. He steadied himself. No way. Calm down. Stay calm. Two possibilities came to mind. Shutra began to speculate and reason carefully. First, he might be trapped in a virtual reality world. Maybe a fatal bug is happening in the real world, which a patch could fix. Next was an extraordinary thought. Second, as crazy as it sounded, this place might actually be reality. Based on years of gaming experience, Shutra guessed like in novels or comics. If you're pulled into a game's world or a game-like realm, imagine the worst-case scenario. But this scene could only be called real. NPCs could converse like real people, and more importantly, Shutra checked his pants and paled when he examined his manhood. No blurring. A terrifying vision flashed through his mind. If this really is another world, what then? Do I have to die here? Although he couldn't accept reality, Shutra took some consolation in his status. No way would I be that reckless. At least it's not orcs or ogres. I'm a prince. Lucky me. While he was still lost in worry, Karak's call cut through. Prince, are you free? Shutra was a bit startled when he came looking for him. Karak asked Shutra out of the tent to spar, surprising him. Why the sudden request to practice? He clumsily explained the reason. After all, the prince is our lord. I must serve. Knowing your sword skill will be good for the future. Shutra was speechless. Why bother? Karak tossed Shutra a wooden practice sword. He assured him firmly so they could train. Don't worry. I'll go easy. Shutra dropped his formalities. He became unusually serious. You dare say that to the prince? He bravely stepped forward, unfazed by pain. If we're sparring, we'll do it properly. Karak's gaze focused, resolute. On the very first exchanges, Shutra's strikes went wide, and his moves were so clumsy they had no effect on Karak. A stone above his head finally made him lose his patience. Karak merely flicked his sword and the stone diverted toward Shutra. He couldn't react in time and fell to the ground. He anxiously asked, My lord, are you all right? Shutra scolded him, Hey, if you hit that hard, but unexpectedly, that small change granted him new skills. Learned basic swordsmanship LV1. Learned basic swordsmanship LV1? What? Shutra exclaimed in wide-eyed surprise. A swordsmanship? When did my head replay like that to remind me again? Shutra recalled his past. This was likely why such anomalies could occur to him. Thinking back, it's just like when I learned psychomotive. Maybe whenever I take a direct hit I learn a skill. Karak thought Shutra was tired and tactfully suggested, Then let's stop here and eat. But Shutra answered decisively, Who said we stop? Shutra stamped his foot hard on the ground, his mind buzzing with excitement as he replied boldly, I'm only warming up. Shutra charged forward, fired up. Karak trained seriously with him, swinging his sword in a flurry of strikes. When their second direct confrontation began, Karak's view of Shutra changed. His movements were indeed much more fluid. That difference made him suspicious. Then why was he like that at first? Could his strength have suddenly surged? Karak poured his strength into a powerful slash at Shutra, but Shutra smoothly and gracefully dodged it. Shutra composed himself and asked Karak's opinion. How is it? I fight pretty well now, right? He then asked about Karak's combat level. Karak, what's your level? Karak hesitated, unsure. Last time it measured, it was 21, I think. Shutra double-checked to be sure. He was surprised by Karak's stat. 21? His level was still far below Karak's. But he set himself a resolve. Soon, I'll catch up. At least in this world levels really exist. That boosted Shutra's morale, but they can't open a status screen like I can. They must use magic to gauge level. Being able to view his own stats made him feel somewhat lucky. In other words, just knowing all my detailed stats and getting bonus points each time I level is already a huge advantage. Shutra continued responding to Karak. He struck a decisive blow. Shutra lunged at Karak with astonishing speed, readying his move. He was exhilarated by his vitality. Can I actually grow stronger? Shutra was confident in his ability. I can surpass others. He recalled the plot details from the game's Demon World storyline of Night Saga. Shutra still remembered the main ending clearly. The protagonist Zephyr defeats his rival siblings to become the Demon King. By the end there are many event arcs, but the most important and one he remembered was a core event of the game. The mandatory event, the Massacre Day. According to the storyline, events could unfold exactly the same in this world. This major event occurs in the year 517 of the demonic calendar. Zephyr will kill all his brothers and sisters to achieve his goal. This troubled Shutra. He murmured calculations. Killing all his siblings. Of course I'd be among them. It's only year 512 of the demonic calendar now. There's still time until 517. A bold thought flashed through Shutra's mind. During this time I must somehow stop that event. The best way is to become stronger than Zephyr. Karak appeared from somewhere and cut off his thoughts. Prince, what are you doing here? I've been looking for you. Shutra replied. What's up? Is something wrong? Karak was surprised by his nonchalant attitude. He reiterated the reason. What else? Did you forget there's a meeting today? Shutra asked, a bit puzzled. A meeting? Seeing him still so calm, he hurriedly reminded him. Hurry up. Everyone's waiting. The meeting is being held at the barracks. Shutra sat up straight at the table. He tried to keep a very serious demeanor. His brothers were also present, relaxed and very composed. Shutra politely spoke up. Welcome. Your Highnesses arrived early. The blonde brother casually said to him. Why the formalities all of a sudden? Make yourself at ease, we're siblings after all. He was the 7th prince, Chris Moonlight. The girl beside him turned and explained to Chris. Brother, it's the first time we've met in person. After all, she was the 8th princess, Caitlin Moonlight. He still cheerfully didn't fuss over titles with Shutra. It's fine. Just call us brother and sister. These two were also among the unforgettable figures in his memory. They were children of the 4th royal consort, the lycanthrope Queen Elaine Moonlight. In the game, they had given him a hard time. Moreover, Shutra knew their fates very well. Chris and Caitlin would die 1 year before the Massacre Day. One cause of that tragedy he remembered clearly was Zephyr and the other children of the Demon King. Watching Caitlin drink tea so calmly made Shutra realize the depth of it all. The reason lay in Caitlin Moonlight's hidden lineage. An unimaginable secret only he knew. She wasn't the Demon King's biological child, but an illegitimate offspring. Caitlin worried about the last battle. She asked him with concern, why didn't you follow the plan and rushed into fighting them? I clearly told you to only scout. Shutra defended himself. I didn't expect them to come out right there. Caitlin immediately offered to check his wounds. Let me see. She placed her hand on Shutra's shoulder and asked warmly, are you hurt anywhere? Caitlin gently lifted his chin with affection. Among the siblings, you're the weakest. You have to be careful. Shutra felt a little awkward. Sorry. Not only her, Chris also felt sorry for him. Shutra couldn't believe such a thing was happening. Wait, why are they worried about me? The Demon King's children this close? Really? Chris didn't hesitate to scold him. If you act reckless and risk your life again, you'll be in trouble. Shutra replied, embarrassed. I understand. Their intimate gestures and concern made Shutra question life. What the hell is this? Are these two really that kind? His gaze hardened with determination. Shutra's mind was full of ways to level up as fast as possible. Lycanthropes naturally have strong vitality, so their aura ability is extremely powerful. If I apply my skill learning method, maybe I could grasp aura easily. He summoned his courage to ask Chris. I have a favor to ask. Could you use your aura to hit me once? Both of them, upon hearing that, were moved and froze. A voice expressing surprise was about to shout from outside the barracks. What? His memories returned to the battlefield where they fought the red demons. They panicked and screamed everywhere as they were continuously attacked. The battlefield was extremely dramatic and tense. Karak charged forth with fierce courage to face the demon general Kaichan. The other demons behind him waited, intending to ambush. Karak turned angrily and delivered a massive palm strike that sent them flying. Another demon, heedless of danger, managed to wound Karak's arm. He snapped, glaring at him with bloodshot, murderous eyes. The demon immediately trembled in fear at his presence. Without further words, Karak cleaved him to pieces with a single stroke. Proud and exuding commanding authority, he ordered the entire force. Leave none alive. Kill them all. Whoever kills the most will be rewarded. The goblins seemed reinvigorated, shouting as they surged forward together. Chaos erupted again. The goblins had the clear advantage over the puny demons. Shutra stood frozen as he watched the scene unfold before him. The goddess's sudden appearance made Shutra exclaim in surprise, "You're the one from before." He was so stunned he couldn't speak. Strangers had appeared, and Shutra was astonished, wondering, "Who are you?" These characters weren't in Night Saga, Re. While he was lost in thought, the goddess suddenly stood behind him. Huh? A flash of light filled Shutra with a hazy sense of disorientation. He snapped awake from a long, deep faint. Shutra put his hand to his forehead, puzzled. Did I just dream? Or was that in the game? Karak suddenly appeared and startled Shutra. "You're awake?" He yelped. Startled. Shutra flailed and trembled with irritation. Seeing he could still shout, Karak felt somewhat reassured. "Your body's holding up." But Shutra's murmured words while dazed made Karak frown. "Why say the princess hit you? Insisting and pleading until you get hit, and then this." He glanced over and was surprised to see a strange change in him. The system announced, "Learnt Aura LV1. Shutra thrilled to receive what he'd been hoping for. "I can feel it." Aura. Karak, seeing this for the first time, asked with curious bewilderment. "Getting hit by aura lets you learn aura?" Shutra answered bluntly. "That's both true and false." Realizing the intriguing implication, Karak and Shutra eagerly discussed it. "So when we fought the Red Lightning, that surge in strength was thanks to the prince, right? That was me." "Oh, so it really was the prince." Feeling a bit uneasy, he asked, "Did anything happen while I was asleep?" Karak confirmed. "Of course there was." He recounted the details to Shutra. "I heard the main camp also defeated the Reds." He was surprised. "The main camp?" Shutra couldn't believe it. He asked again, stunned. "Wasn't clearing the Red Lightning orcs our job? Chris and Caitlin's?" Karak replied earnestly. "Don't be ridiculous. The Red Lightning tribe isn't small scale." Shutra grew more curious. "Then who commanded the main camp?" He named a familiar figure. "The Orc Vandal." "General Vandal?" Shutra exclaimed in shock. "What? Vandal?" Shutra wasn't surprised. Vandal was his favorite character in the game. General Vandal was a brutal powerhouse, his appearance matching his strength, and he was the subordinate Shutra loved to use when playing as Zephyr. An idea flashed through his mind. Wait, this could be an opportunity. Knowing the future, Shutra seized the chance. Vandal only becomes Zephyr's subordinate in the year 515 demonic calendar. So right now he isn't under Zephyr. Just thinking it made him grin slyly. If so, I can recruit him first. Because Shutra knew all the Zulal about him inside out, he grew even more confident in this plan. "I know almost everything about him, from the gifts he likes to his favorite foods and specialties. And most importantly, the condition to recruit Vandal is to defeat him in a one-on-one duel." Shutra was very shrewd to come up with this idea. His eyes were resolute. "With this much knowledge, I can definitely recruit him before Zephyr." "Totally feasible. There's still enough time." Shutra smiled with satisfaction, already nursing a desire to possess. "First Vandal, you will be my subordinate." A sharp cry rang out at the camp. "What? This is Caitlin's camp." Chris looked at the light emitting from his hand, eyes wide with astonishment. "On the first day and you've already reached the basic stage of aura projection?" Behind him, Chris also looked on in surprise. He smiled calculatingly, furrowing his brow and thinking to himself. Because he put all his points into aura, of course. Shutra considered the speed-up animation of the perception skill wasn't a random choice. Aura boosts overall physical energy, actually even better than having a motivational chant. Caitlin stared at him in amazement. "No way. Could it be because you're a Gandhar?" Suddenly he turned. "Shutra, can you redraw the underground map?" He looked up, slightly puzzled. "An underground map?" Then Shutra looked at the command tent ceiling and thought. "Not exactly, but I do have a minimap." Shutra replied to him. "It's simple enough. Lend me a pen and paper." A short while later at the barracks, he finished the map laid out on the table. Chris couldn't help exclaiming. "Impossible, it's even more detailed than the map I have." Suddenly he came over and hugged Shutra's shoulder in amazement. "Shutra, you're a genius." He looked up and smiled. Haha. Chris, happy, stepped forward. All the Red Lightning tribe we encountered earlier are dead. And they don't know we've mapped these underground tunnels. Chris nodded in agreement. We can ambush them using this map. He then added, by the way, Shutra, I need you to do one more thing. Shutra looked over, puzzled. Next, at the wide mountain, Shutra, Karak, and his orc army walked around the mountain. He questioned the mission. A patrol? He shrugged resignedly beside him. I have no choice. I'm the youngest right now. He leaned in and whispered, but luckily we've got reinforcements. He turned to look at the enemy troops behind. It's all thanks to our efforts. Karak agreed, that's right. Suddenly a figure blocked Shutra's army. He looked at them. Huh? It was Chris and Caitlin. She brushed her hair aside. The face of the girl behind turned dark as she looked at him. Sister. Then he looked back at Chris, puzzled. What's with that cloak? She put a finger to her lips to signal silence. Shoo, she then explained softly to him. Sister will secretly accompany you to guard against accidents, but will only intervene if it becomes truly dangerous, because the credit has to be yours. He looked a bit hesitant and glanced at her. Planning to support me like that? Isn't that stupid? He muttered. My credit? Syra then stepped forward and introduced herself coldly. Pleased to meet you. I'm Syra, assistant. He looked at her. Oh? Yeah, pleased to meet you. Then she looked toward the distant mountain and declared. Anyway, your sister will tail you. Don't worry too much. Shutra agreed. All right, they approached a dark cave entrance. Shutra's army entered, echoing sounds reverberating inside. Then they noticed an empty pile inside. Empty? Who would abandon loot like this? The dwarves must have taken everything. He looked at him, puzzled. What about those weapons I picked up last time? Karak explained. They probably didn't consider them valuable. He understood, probably. Then the torch-bearing men moved deeper inside. Ahead, he turned back to report. Prince, it seems something is coming. Shutra stared in that direction. Yeah, I hear it too. Having said that, he looked back at the red dots on the cave map. This definitely hit. He ordered the inventory system and a window popped up. Shutra then took out a vial, thinking to himself. I've prepared a blinding potion for this. He gripped the vial and told Karak. Tell everyone to close their eyes on my signal. Karak stood aside, baffled. What? Ahead of them, something in the dark cave was making a churning sound. Red, blood-cold eyes crawled out, and webs were being spun from the walls. They surged forward at high speed, roaring terrifyingly. System note: stone spiders, monsters commonly found in places like caves. They travel in packs of dozens and have a potent paralytic venom. Suddenly he shouted to warn everyone. Close your eyes now. The orcs quickly obeyed, and he hurled the vial, which flashed toward them. It exploded, sending out a blinding burst of light. The glare filled the space above the spiders, freezing their movement. The spiders squeezed their eyes shut and screamed pitifully. He thought, stone spiders become useless when exposed to light since they live in darkness. With urgency, he shouted the command. Attack! Kill all the spiders. The rear legions charged forward wildly. Spiders and orcs clashed in a noisy melee. An orc swung his axe down, finishing off a spider. Behind him he stood silently, watching the battle. He opened the map again to observe the cave situation. Stone spiders hunt in packs. Shutra's gaze landed on the largest red on the map. There must be an alpha in the pack. He then turned, drew his sword and shouted, Karak, come with me. Take down the boss first. Karak confirmed. The two rushed forward. Then a shock stopped them suddenly. In front of them was a truly huge pincer. The Spider Queen opened her jaws and snarled at them. Karak, crazed, lifted his axe and leapt forward to attack. Yelling, he brought his axe down on it, his face full of astonishment. Huh? There wasn't a scratch on the Spider Queen's body. Karak shouted in shock. What? Its outer shell is insanely tough. He suddenly remembered. Right? I forgot my axe can't pierce its outer armor. His eyes fixed on its furious eyes. Its weakness is fire, but I still can't use fire magic. The Spider Queen's body moved, startling Karak. Then it roared in rage and lunged at him. He stood at the back and shouted a reminder. Use fire. Karak is weak to fire. Karak looked baffled and shouted back. Wait, but where am I supposed to get fire? Suddenly a shout made him turn his head. Shutra raised his sword. A blaze of flame burned brightly on Shutra's blade. He stared at it in astonishment, eyes wide and stammering. Magic? Below. Chris cast the spell while watching him, probing. Is that enough? He turned to look at her and understood. The Spider Queen suddenly lunged forward. He quickly sprang up, sword in hand, and charged at it. Slicing sounds cracked through the air. The Spider Queen's body began to burn from his flame-wreathed sword, the fire blade. Immediately the flames flared fiercely, consuming the Spider Queen's body. Below, Shutra looked up at it, and suddenly his body flashed with a surge of energy that surprised him as well. Along with the rising energy came the system announcement. You have leveled up. You have leveled up X2. He looked at the stats panel before him and cheered. Oh, level 9. Behind him, Chris asked anxiously, Shutra, are you okay? What was that light just now? He was a bit embarrassed. It was... Then he smiled, standing before the blaze and explaining. It's like a blessing, it happens sometimes. Don't worry. She stepped closer and asked. A blessing? From Gandharv? He hesitated. Yeah, from Gandharv. She was a bit doubtful, but more concerned about him. Have you fought this before? Your reaction was pretty practiced. He glanced away, awkwardly scratching his head. Just read about it in books. But inwardly he thought, actually I've fought it countless times in the game, so of course I know how to counter it. Above, Karak pointed ahead, cutting their conversation short. Prince, look over there. Both turned to look. Yeah, before them was a gate hidden deep within the rock. They opened the gate and Shutra, Chris, Karak, and Syra entered. Seeing what was inside, he widened his eyes in surprise. Huh? This is underground. A magic circle was set up, with an orb in the center receiving energy. Shutra stepped forward, puzzled. A teleportation gate? From behind, someone asked in amazement. You know what that is? He turned back, slightly hesitant. Not entirely sure, but I guess so. Then he looked at the patterns on the ground. Not certain, but these designs are in the dwarven style. There are torches on the wall and a sigil flag of a teleport gate. Shutra fell into thought. When I played on Zephyrside I never saw one, but when I played the heroes I saw a few. He then stood in the center of the magic circle, staring at the glowing orb, his expression darkening. If I channel mana into it, it should activate, right? He turned to Chris behind him and said, Hey, do you think this could be a teleport gate? She removed her hat, flustered. A teleport gate? Syra stepped forward to confirm. From the design, the prince might be right. She asked him curiously. So can we tell where it connects to? She added nonchalantly. If we search around, there should be some inscriptions. Sure enough, Karak pointed to a plaque on the wall. Prince, I see carved writing here. He also looked in that direction. The group all moved closer without being told. On the stone steel were carved lines of unfamiliar script, clearly not the common tongue of the demonkin, seeming to be dwarven script. Karak turned to Chris, puzzled. Can you read it? She replied. Why would I know dwarven script? Then he turned to Syra. What about you? Syra frowned. Sorry, I can't read it either. Suddenly a voice rang out, startling all three. Mount Jishka. Teleport gate number 2. He stared at the stone tablet and read clearly. And it connects to gate number 3. Even Shutra's eyes widened in bewilderment. Wait. What? How can I read dwarven script? A system notification appeared above. Learned dwarven language LV1. He looked at it, still amazed. What? I can learn languages like this too? Karak bowed slightly and asked him. Prince, you really can read it? He smiled and replied, Yeah, I think so. Behind them Chris was still stunned. Shutra, since when could you read dwarven script? Syra, more focused, asked. So what does the inscription say? He rubbed his chin, studying the tablet. I think it says that channeling mana will activate it. Then he looked down and suggested, Why don't you try channeling a bit of mana into it? She frowned at him. Why me? Why don't you do it yourself? Shutra looked awkward and offered an excuse. Well, I'm still not very good. He thought to himself. Honestly, I can't use mana either. She let it go fine. Next, Chris moved toward the orb, his hand beginning to channel magic into it. Everyone stared at the glowing orb. Then it flashed a streak of energy. A 3D map projection appeared before them. The group gaped. Is this Jishka Mountain? On the 3D tech map they saw white dots. Shutra analyzed. This dot is where we are. Over there is gate number 3. Chris asked, so that means there's a dwarf tunnel over there too? He replied, very likely. Karak from behind stepped forward and assessed. Isn't that perfect? The Red Lightning Army is stationed there. He smiled and gave a thumbs up to the old man. Exactly, then we can launch a rear attack. Then he looked around and ordered. For now we stop here and return. I need to discuss this carefully with the chief. The man agreed, yes. Back at the camp, shouts of joy rang out at the command tent. I didn't expect a teleport gate here. Chris slapped his shoulder enthusiastically and shouted. Shutra, You're a blessing. Shutra looked embarrassed. Oh no, Then Caitlin smiled at him, looking refreshed, and offered, if there's anything you want, just say it. If it's within my power, I'll grant it. He waved his hand, smiling innocently. I'm fine. Seeing that, he cut in with more advice. No, as leader and the elder, I want to reward you. Caitlin's reminder made him lower his head, a little hesitant. If you refuse, I'll be upset. After thinking, he hesitantly asked, okay? Though it seemed odd, Caitlin indulged. Odd? Now I'm even more curious. Shutra stood before them and made a request that seemed to freeze the air. Could you teach me Beast God Fist? Caitlin's expression darkened as she looked at him. What? He bowed his head and only dared to stick his tongue out slightly as he watched their reactions. In his mind he thought, I'm still not proficient with weapons due to my low rank, but other skills. Shutra then thought of those who wielded that martial art with great power. Beast God Fist is a royal lycanthrope family art. Simply put, it's an extremely powerful S-rank martial technique. I know this request sounds ridiculous. It'd be understandable if he refuses. Shutra shook his head, crossing his arms as if to be reasonable. It's probably difficult. Oh well, I expected it couldn't be done from the start. Hearing that, Caitlin's face darkened, expression unreadable. Then he decided, alright, I will teach you. Hearing that, he perked up and looked up. What? Seeing his face, Caitlin put a hand on her hip and frowned, explaining. Of course I can't teach the secret techniques. He, still unbelieving, stammered. Really? Caitlin added for confirmation. At least I can teach you how to channel aura. Then he asked again, leaving him stunned for a moment. So, is this reward good enough? Seeing him silent, he glanced at Chris and joked, saying nothing. So you don't like it, huh? Shutra hurried to explain. No, not at all. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Suddenly they called his name seriously, which left him puzzled. Shutra. Caitlin put her hands on her hips and looked at him sternly. Chris beside her smiled gently. From now on I can really consider you a brother, right? He looked at them, a bit bewildered. Huh? A brother? He muttered inwardly. A brother? Caitlin squinted at him with determination. That word carries a lot of meaning. Shutra smiled and accepted happily. Well, fine, I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. Next, Shutra stepped forward and took Caitlin's hand. The three of them looked at each other happily. Yes, he stared at them, and they looked back at him. Let's cooperate from now on. A system window appeared behind Shutra without his knowledge, the message inside. Alliance formed with Chris Moonlight and Caitlin Moonlight. Current alliance status. Normal. That afternoon, on another mountain, inside a different encampment, the Red Lightning Clan's barracks. Members of the Red Lightning Clan were drilling and standing in formation. The green-haired Red Lightning spoke with scorn, his fist curled in contempt. You didn't come here on your own, did you? Behind him, a crew-cut man crossed his arms and looked up. On the ground, on a magic circle, a candle burned, and above it a girl knelt, wounded. The others muttered, so it's the princess. The girl, bound on the magic circle and powerless, was questioned by the Red Lightning. What brought you here? This was 6th Princess Felicia Doomblade. Shutra glanced at his status panel and whispered, Willpower? He said, at first whenever I leveled up, all stats increased by 2, but at some point charm only started increasing by 1. Shutra wondered puzzledly, why is that? In the original Night Saga, appearance and charm were separate stats. Appearance simply shows how handsome or ugly a character is, while charm measures how like they are by other characters. He wasn't too bothered and stayed optimistic. Well, that makes sense, since my growth rate has been fine so far. Looking at the 9 on his status panel, Shutra was pleased. More importantly, I'll reach level 10 soon. Shutra thought, in Night Saga, whenever Zephyr and Locke hit level 10, their unique skills, Descendant of Darkness and the Chosen, rank up by 1 level. So if I reach level 10, at least one of my skills should upgrade, right? Suddenly someone pulled back a curtain and called, Your Highness. Karak asked, Everything ready? Shall we depart? He turned back and replied, Okay. Karak curiously asked, You look happy. What's the good news? Shutra answered, Not really. The two of them stepped out of the tent. Outside, countless orc warriors stood in neat ranks. Shutra gave the order. All right, let's move out. The mountain range rose in majestic, treacherous tiers. On the windswept rocky peak was a dark cave. Inside the cave, a fierce battle raged between orcs and a pack of werewolves. Far from the battlefield stood a sealed stone gate. Shutra and the others were inside it. Chris asked the 2 wolves standing by the glass orb, Have you finished the checks? One of them replied timidly, Yes. As you said, This gate connects to the Eska River in the Jishka Range. Chris asked, is it operating reliably? He answered, yes, as expected from dwarven craftsmanship, very stable. He said, good, let's go. The two wolves activated the glass orb. It emitted a blinding, powerful white-blue light. Then an oval spatial gate opened, beyond which lay a desolate, wind-scarred mountain landscape. Shutra and Karak stared in astonishment at the shimmering portal. He thought in amazement, I can't believe I'm seeing a teleport gate in real life. Caitlin went ahead, then called back, what are you still standing there for? Shutra snapped back to his senses and hurriedly replied, yes, I'm coming. He stepped into the spatial gate. In the blink of an eye, the group had appeared on the other side. Suddenly Shutra exclaimed in surprise. Huh? The five of them stood on a rocky outcrop, looking down at the camp below. Chris said, good, as expected, that's their camp. He assessed, judging by the scale, about 5,000 troops. If we strike from the rear, we should prioritize the supply depot. Chris said, if General Vandal attacks head-on to create a diversion, we can set the supply depot alight from here. Syra, puzzled, said, but isn't it strange? She looked down and explained, there are too few troops here. Chris inspected more closely and agreed, that's right, where did they all go? Have they already deployed? Shutra suddenly heard a noise and turned to look into the distance. He looked toward a cluster of dark dots far off and asked, what's that? It looks like they're about to fight. Chris instructed, Shutra, focus your aura into your eyes. He complied, my aura? Shutra furrowed his brow and concentrated his aura into his eyes. His vision instantly extended. The dark dots on the horizon quickly grew larger. Shutra, incredulous, said, I can see them. Caitlin said, one side looks like the Red Lightning clan. But who are those others? Chris, puzzled, said, they're not General Vandal's troops. And there wasn't supposed to be any battle today. Besides, the scale of the fight is far too small. Shutra watched in silence and scrutinized them. He saw people with purple skin and stark white hair fighting the lightning demons. They had long pointed ears and reddish-pink pupils. Shutra shouted, Dark Elves. Caitlin turned and asked, what? Did you just say Dark Elves? He replied, yes. They're smaller in build and they even ride Dracos. She cried out, Dracos. Chris, also watching, said, they're retreating. Their commander must be down. They're falling back fast. Only to be seen the Dark Elves turning and fleeing decisively, leaving the lightning demons behind. Karak asked, what's going on? Is the battle already over? Shutra wondered suspiciously, why are Dark Elves here? The crimson dusk bathed the camp. Inside the tent, Vandal told over the communicator, I've heard you found the dwarven teleport gate. He praised, indeed, Prince Chris. Tell me, how did you learn there was a gate here? Chris said, no, I didn't find it, Ninth Prince Shutra did. He quickly added, it was just luck. Looking at the man on the screen, he thought, General Vandal is quite amused to see us again. At this, the general became interested. Oh, I see. This time you will finally be able to enter Demon Lord City. Chris asked, earlier I heard there was a small skirmish in front of the Red Lightning camp. Do you know anything about that? Vandal said, it seems to have been the Dark Elves. Apparently they jumped into the fight on their own. Chris continued, but why would Dark Elves engage the Red Lightning clan? He asked, didn't they send reinforcements from Demon Lord City? Vandal replied, it's hard to say. I heard they intended to scout before the rendezvous, but an incident occurred. Vandal said, we're in trouble. Chris asked again, what's the matter? Vandal replied, the Special Forces commander of the Dark Elves has been captured by the Red Lightning clan. Chris, hearing this, asked, was that small skirmish because of this? Shutra, standing nearby, interjected and asked, wait, who exactly is the commander of that special unit? Vandal said, you all know that person. He said, 6th Princess Felicia Doomblade, your elder sister. Hearing the answer, Chris and Caitlin were visibly shocked. The daughter of Sylvan Doomblade, the Azure Empress and Princess of the Dark Elves, and the twin sister of 5th Prince Sylvan Doomblade. In the game, Felicia and Sylvan were both on the same side as 4th Princess Anastasia Nekrian. That's why my impression of her was always as an enemy. Shutra scanned the surroundings, his face thoughtful as he evaluated. Why is Felicia here? Could she be intervening to claim credit? Chris looked at the scene before him, displeased and puzzled. Do those damned Red Lightning even realize that the Dark Elves they're fighting are Felicia? Vandal appeared on the screen. Who knows? It can't be confirmed yet. Then someone asked, so what do you plan to do from here? Vandal, his mouth showing 2 large lower fangs, said, if she can be rescued, I will rescue her. Chris thought differently. No negotiation? He had thought it through. If they dared to act, at least I could negotiate, but I do not intend to make concessions. Hearing Vandal's calculation, Chris curled a lip and said, I see. Vandal looked at the 3 of them through the screen. I'll gather more information. If anything happens, I'll contact you. Chris ended the conversation as well. Alright, understood. After that, Vandal disappeared from the screen in front of the three of them. Chris smirked. Huh. Looks like our marvelous elder sister has been taken prisoner. Caitlin's eyes hardened with resolve. If she's still alive, we have to save her. But Chris's expression soured and he looked uncertain. Sounds good, but it's not going to be easy. To rescue her, I'm afraid we'll suffer losses as well. Caitlin was surprised he wasn't willing, but it didn't dampen her resolve. She clenched her palms, raised her voice and said firmly, No, we'll save her. We must save her. After all, she's our elder sister. Chris didn't answer. He just furrowed his brow and pondered something. After a while he spoke. I know, but having watched the situation until now, Shutra remained silently at a loss for words. Dawn light washed over the mountains. At the assembly point, the tent stood upright with many guards posted outside. Inside, everyone was discussing tactics. Chris stood at the center and laid out the strategy. The plan is simple. When Vandal draws out the main force of the Red Lightning Clan, we'll strike their camp from the rear. Using the map, Chris illustrated to help everyone visualize. Then we'll storm into their base to create chaos. Kin and Shutra, both of you will command separate units and carry out the mission. The three, Shutra, Caitlin, and Karak, listened intently. Hearing his name, Shutra asked, The mission is to rescue our elder sister, right? Chris confirmed. Yes, but we'll burn the food and weapon depots first, then rescue Felicia. If the situation becomes too dangerous, we retreat immediately. We can't afford additional losses just for Felicia. Chris's gaze was cold. Every word prioritized the common good. Caitlin vehemently opposed this. Brother, Chris sternly. Order. I'm the commander here. Caitlin did not back down. We're family. How can you say that? But the two continued to argue. We can't let Felicia's reckless actions ruin the entire plan. Looking at the scene, Shutra felt confused inside. What's going on? He seemed to sense that Chris wasn't very eager to rescue Felicia. Could it be that something happened between them? Across the mountains, the sky burned red above shadowed peaks. Footsteps approached in succession as troops surged forward in a fierce assault. The charging soldiers swept through the damned Red Lightning Clan. Chris and the rest of the soldiers stood watching on the cliff. He looked down at the base below, where many tents had been erected. The Red Lightning troops were posted down below. Chris's gaze cut sharply across them. A blast rang out, setting part of their camp ablaze. The soldiers caught off guard were blown into the air. The leader and his followers charged forward. The leader, eyes glowing red and fangs bared, slaughtered them ruthlessly. On the map, Shutra's unit was a whole main road away from the attack. Seeing the situation, Karak spoke up. The attack has begun. Haven't we moved out yet? Shutra, seeing the bursts of fire below, replied calmly. Wait. There will be a signal. Below it was chaos. Blue-clad soldiers swinging wildly. The tough blue guards wielded axes, knocking the red soldiers down. The leader stood quietly below, watching his men attack. His eyes observed without the slightest movement. Amid the blazing fire, a shout rang out. All forces, fall back now. Chris watched the chaos, the smoke and dust rising below. He turned and shouted, All units, hear my orders. Prepare to move out. Execute the mission exactly as planned. Shutra, Caitlin, and everyone else set their faces with determination to win. Chris yelled, Charge. The whole group surged forward fiercely and powerfully. The Red Lightning soldiers stared in stunned surprise. Then a large-scale battle unfolded. Caitlin ran beside him and warned, Shutra, be careful. He smiled in return. You too, sister. Shutra reached out and unfolded the map and shouted commandingly, Left flank. Advance straight for the supply depot. They rushed forward frantically. Oh, kill them all. Karak swung a hand and struck the enemies directly. Hit by the blow, they grew more ferocious and charged down with savage fists. Karak's eyes widened slightly in surprise, and Shutra timely delivered a punch to that man's face, saving Karak from a blow. It was the level 1 throwing blade, launching a dagger at the designated target. Seeing the throw succeed completely, Shutra smiled with satisfaction. Karak, astonished, said, Prince, when did you learn to throw blades? He kept running. Never mind. Hurry up. But inwardly he thought with relief. I only practiced throwing knives last night, yet somehow I picked up the skill. Karak looked ahead. That looks like the supply depot. Should we just set it on fire? Shutra agreed. Yes, proceed according to the plan. Suddenly Shutra remembered. Wait. What about Felicia? If she's imprisoned in there, she could be trapped or even killed. Shutra changed the plan. We have to find Felicia first. Karak hesitated. But how do you intend to find her? He replied calmly. Follow me. Shutra ran while glancing at the map. He thought to himself, Felicia would count as a neutral NPC, so she'll appear as a green or purple dot. Shutra suddenly noticed something. He shouted urgently, This way. Karak. Got it. Shutra threw the door wide open. He stepped inside and looked around. This is definitely it. But where's Felicia? A voice called his name. Shutra. Shutra abruptly turned his gaze toward the voice. Before him stood a girl with platinum hair. Before him stood a girl with platinum hair. The girl looked stunned and surprised. Shutra. Why are you here? This girl was 6th Princess Felicia Doomblade. Shutra seriously began unfastening her chains and replied. Now is not the time for talking. Be quiet. This place is dangerous. We need to free you and get out of here fast. As he worked, he calculated inwardly. If I make Felicia indebted to me now, she'll be very useful later. Felicia was puzzled by his attitude, staring at him. That was almost serious trouble. After removing the chains, Felicia urged, Let's go. Quickly rejoin Chris and Caitlin. Felicia paused, astonished. Wait, Chris and Caitlin came too? To rescue me? Shutra affirmed. Of course, isn't that obvious? Shouldn't they rescue their sister? Felicia, bewildered. No. Shutra had been excluded from the power struggle, so he didn't know. Karak turned back and shouted a warning. Your Highness, there are too many of them. Shutra startled and turned one way. Felicia. This way. Hurry up. Felicia, still confused, said, Okay. Then she realized something and asked seriously. Wait, why are you calling me by my name? Shutra was running headlong in one direction. Then she screamed in alarm and chased after him. Shutra. Behind you. Shutra tried to turn back but was struck in the chest by a blast of force. The impact sent him coughing up a painful mouthful of blood. Then his position erupted in an explosion. Felicia screamed in horror. Shutra. The flames continued to burn with no sign of stopping. Felicia looked toward it with worry. Shutra suddenly let out a monstrous roar, followed by a pulse of power radiating outward. She tried to resist. TCH. Then Felicia's gaze shifted to another direction. The red goblin immediately exploded on the spot. Felicia watched the smoke fading where Shutra had detonated things moments ago. What is this? After a while, the dust cleared and a foot appeared. Shutra stood there unharmed. Not a scratch on him. Happily holding a bow. Learned mana control LV1. Learned rocket LV1. He smiled with satisfaction. Then he proceeded to launch rockets at the giant enemies. Shutra grew even happier. Grinning with delight, he repeatedly drew his bow and fired rockets, causing explosions to erupt. The red goblins kept getting blown up all over, screaming in agony where they were hit. Shutra cried out excitedly, Ha! This is real. This is actual magic. Even at level 1 it's amazing. Ahaha! Suddenly, a wave of force struck from behind, making him jolt and turn around. Then a pile of ice appeared on the ground. Ice? Above the camp, high-ranking red goblins were firing arrows down. Shutra anxiously followed the arrow's trajectory. Wait, he's aiming at Felicia. Felicia, focusing, asked him, Shutra, are you okay? Shutra decisively shoved her back and shouted a warning. Hold on. Don't come near. Felicia looked at the enemy in confusion. Shutra. Immediately countless ice missiles shot toward Shutra's position. He fell silent briefly, his expression unreadable. Then moments later his eyes lit up with sparkling fascination as he locked onto the giant's treasure. Because this is me's merchandise. Then once more a wave of power descended to the ground where Shutra stood, creating a thick cloud of dust and smoke. The smoke thinned, and Shutra's figure remained enveloped inside. A quick notification appeared. Learned Ice Missile LV1. He couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Ha! Just as I thought. Suddenly a sharp pillar of ice pierced his back, the crushing pressure turning his expression grave. Shutra's body collapsed to the ground. A red alert appeared. HP 1395. Vitality diminished. You are in critical condition. He cried out in panic. I'm dead. If I take another hit like that, my blood. Shutra gritted his teeth and endured the pain. Suddenly a voice rang out. Idiot. Shutra looked in that direction. Felicia stood with her arms crossed, silently staring down at him, then unexpectedly spoke, questioning. Did I ask you to save me? Shutra's face filled with puzzlement. What? Felicia frowned and asked again. Among us you're the weakest. So who do you think actually needs saving? Shutra screamed inwardly. Wait. Felicia seems to be misunderstanding something. What the hell? His face showed bewilderment. Felicia asked again. Since when did you learn magic? Shutra stared in astonishment at the unmoving corpse of the archer from earlier. She took down the mage herself. Shutra stared at the unmoving corpse of the archer from earlier, stunned. She took down the mage herself while he was lost in thought. Felicia stepped closer and decisively pulled the bandage from Shutra. Then a healing light surrounded his wound. There, Felicia was releasing her healing power on him. Shutra widened his eyes at that miraculous power, and the large wound on his chest quickly healed miraculously. Learned healing LV1. Shutra watched the wound close completely and exclaimed in astonishment. Healed instantly. Truly the magical prodigy Felicia Doomblade. At this, Felicia checked on him. Do you feel better now? Can you stand? Shutra replied. I'm fine. Thanks to you my blood is restored. She looked a bit puzzled. What? Blood? Shutra was startled and tried to explain. No, I mean... Ha! Suddenly something drew both their gazes to one side. A red goblin with bloodshot eyes, going berserk, charged forward. What the hell is that? Shutra answered. That's a blood fiend. A mutated form of ogre. Felicia turned back startled. What? You mean we have to defeat that thing to escape? Ah yeah. That's it. At that moment the shadow of the red goblin descended over them, and both quickly spun and fled. The red goblin roared as it chased them. Shutra's face went pale. How the hell are we supposed to fight that? The red goblin chased after them, swinging its weapon down. He spun around in panic. What the hell? How is it so fast? Felicia urged. Shutra, stall for time. I'll charge up a finishing spell. Her words made him jump in alarm. How am I supposed to stall? At that moment another enemy attack slammed down right behind them. While running, Shutra continued. Okay, I get it. I'll find a way to draw aggro. You get your spell ready. Felicia wondered. Aggro? What's that? Shutra. Just get ready. Then he shouted. Karak? Where are you? Karak up ahead turned and replied. Here. Shutra signaled like before. Ready. Yes. Shutra turned back and quickly brought up the system screen. Can I use the dwarven dagger now? A dagger appeared on the screen. He grabbed it, staring seriously at the enemy. Each sharp blade emitted a surge of power. Shutra drove it hard into the ground. Under the king's banner, a wave of power issued forth, aimed straight at where Karak stood ahead. Karak was infused with strength, seizing the cleaver and grinding his teeth. When the power reached a certain threshold, he let out a yell. The red goblin, bewildered, looked up into the air to see the massive Karak swinging a razor-sharp blade down. The red goblin quickly raised its weapon to block Karak's strike. Then it kept getting battered by additional attacks. Karak swung the cleaver with all his might, the blade biting straight into the giant's belly. It ground its teeth and hissed in pain. At that moment Felicia, in a translucent form, flew close to it. A second later she manifested with a burst of power. She unleashed a power that enveloped the red goblin's body as it screamed, "Get out!" The force scorched its foot armor, making it leap. Then the force threw it backwards, flipping it over. The red goblin was momentarily stunned, lying stiff on the ground. Karak seized the moment, leaped in with his blade, his eyes flashing red as he shouted, "It's over!" He delivered a downward slash into the giant's belly so powerful the ground around it cracked. The red goblin spat out a mouthful of blood in agony. Karak continued stomping on its belly, making the blood gush non-stop. Shutra stood to the side watching the scene, a thrilled smile on his face. Haha, we won! We won! There are still more, but the biggest nuisance is taken care of. Suddenly a wave of power enveloped him, and he looked down, bewildered. Huh. Then the system screen appeared before his eyes with the message, level up to LV10. Shutra cheered inwardly. Finally reached level 10. Your protagonist has leveled up. He couldn't help grinning with satisfaction. Nice. Remember to buff the level 2 protagonist. A new passive skill was added. He quickly tapped the screen. Should I open the gift box now? Blessing of the Battlefield LV1. The accuracy of ranged attacks aimed at the protagonist is slightly reduced. Shutra once again exclaimed in amazement. This is the Stormtrooper effect. Everyone's seen the scene at least once where dozens of bullets fly out, but they all just graze the protagonist. Shutra grinned excitedly. With this skill, I can recreate that exact protagonist aura effect. At that moment, a horde of red goblins thundered toward them. Felicia, sprinting over, shouted, "Shutra, what are you doing?" The enemies are coming. He snapped back to reality. Felicia was exhausted, her face weary as she turned back, yet she still forced out another shock. Oh wind, roar! A gust of wind power erupted, blasting the red goblins backward. Shutra stared wide-eyed at the scene. It looked like magic, but it wasn't. He quickly realized. A spirit. That's exactly a spirit. Even fallen, a dark spirit is still a spirit. Felicia isn't just an outstanding mage. She's a natural spiritmancer. Felicia was still strenuously dealing with the enemies. Shutra's eyes lit up and he bore a greedy smile. But will that magic hit me? I wonder? At that moment a streak of golden light appeared in the sky. Shutra's soldiers looked up. Karak asked, "Prince, what does the flare mean?" He replied, "Yellow means retreat." Karak, retreat? He felt puzzled too. Do you think something's wrong? Don't tell me someone is in danger? Karak asked anxiously. Prince, what should we do? Give the order. Shutra commanded. Karak, lead the troops to retreat first. I have to get to Sister Caitlin. Karak looked at him blankly. Huh? What do you mean? Then let me come with you. He was clearly very worried. Shutra explained. There must be a reason for the retreat order. Just follow my command for now. Karak was still bewildered, but Felicia stepped forward and said, I'll go with Shutra. Karak, princess. She continued. I'm not used to owing anyone, so I want a chance to repay the debt, and I still have a few things to settle with those pigs. Karak resigned himself and warned the two. Then be careful, prince. I'll wait for you up ahead. Shutra quickly moved off. I know, see you later. Felicia followed and asked, but do you really need to go to Caitlin? He replied suspiciously. Who knows, this sudden retreat order is suspicious. She pressed on. Do you think she actually lost to those guys? Shutra, I hope not. If she did, we'll just return together. Seeing him so anxious, Felicia looked saddened. You care about Caitlin that much? Shutra answered, of course, we're sisters. Inwardly, he added guiltily, but also because of the alliance. Felicia folded her arms, staring at him intently. Of course. Cut to Caitlin's camp, where a swarm of red goblins was charging to attack the camp. Caitlin calmly threw out counterpunches that landed, her gaze razor-sharp as she turned back. Caitlin reached out and produced a force that blew the red goblins' bellies apart, leaving them in utter panic. Then they went mad again, grinding their teeth as they charged forward. Two of them lunged at Caitlin to attack. She jumped back to evade. She quickly summoned a weapon, immediately swinging a razor-sharp slash at the two red goblins. They quickly felt the pain. At that moment Shutra and Felicia appeared. Felicia gave a cold smile. Humph, just as I thought. Shutra's expression was equally relieved since Caitlin had handled the danger herself. No need to worry. Caitlin quickly noticed Shutra's presence and turned to ask, Shutra, why are you still here? Why haven't you withdrawn? He replied awkwardly, I came to rescue you, to help, but it seems you didn't need me. She looked back puzzled. Huh? What do you mean? Then her eyes widened in surprise and she exclaimed. On seeing Felicia, she rushed over suddenly, then joyfully hugged Felicia tightly and cried out, Felicia, thank God. You're really safe. Felicia blushed from being hugged, awkwardly. Of Seacourse, always worrying for nothing. Shutra watched and laughed, thinking, you two seem pretty close. Huh? Suddenly a system screen appeared showing the area map. He startled and turned to look. It looks like the enemies returned. Retreat quickly. Caitlin said, Shutra, you lead the way. We'll cover the rear. He replied, yes. Cut to another location. At this time, the blue soldiers were diligently working within a barrier. The ground was covered with sigils. The three, Shutra and the others, stepped into the barrier. Felicia looked around and wondered. Shutra discovered this gate? Caitlin replied cheerfully, yes, he contributed a lot to this battle. Felicia muttered, weird. When did it change this much? Just then someone appeared and called out, everyone's returned safely. It was Chris. Caitlin exclaimed, brother, I brought Felicia back safe. In contrast to her cheerfulness, Felicia just frowned silently, then greeted coldly, Chris, long time no see. Chris? He fell silent for a moment, staring at her. Then he answered, yes, it's been a while, Miss Felicia. Later, in a cave, the four gathered to talk. Chris announced, I heard General Vandal also won. It seems Yakujin gave up after seeing his camp burn. Shutra, curious, asked, Yakujin? Caitlin beside him explained, Yakujin is the name of the supreme leader of the Red Storm tribe. Forgotten? Felicia asked, so Yakujin surrendered? Chris denied it. Not exactly, he just fled elsewhere. If he rallies the remnants, he can still fight on. Therefore, tomorrow we'll attack Kaiken's forces. Kaiken's brother. If he links up with Yakujin, it'll be troublesome. Anyway, that's my report finished, so what about you? Why are you here? Felicia fell silent when asked, and after a while answered, I've been researching recent ruins, then heard about the battle, so I came to assist but was captured on the way. Chris exclaimed in surprise. Really? Seeing his skeptical expression, she asked bluntly. Why do I sound like I'm lying? Chris didn't deny it. His sharp eyes studied her expression for any slip. Felicia didn't hesitate and stared him down. Only then did Chris look away. You must be tired too. Let's pause here. Everyone, rest. Yes. Thank you for your hard work. Felicia wore a pensive expression and said nothing more. The soldiers sat resting and bandaging each other's wounds. Shutra sat alone checking the system screen. Own skills. Mana Control LV1, Fire Missile LV1, Ice Missile LV1, Healing LV1. He finished reviewing the newly acquired items and couldn't help but feel delighted. Heh. Just looking at them makes me happy. But the only thing I can really use in battle right now is probably aura, right? While he was absorbed looking at the items, a voice suddenly called, Shutra, can I come in for a moment? Felicia entered at that time. Shutra, astonished. Sister Felicia, did you change clothes? Then he asked, why are you here at this hour? Felicia pursed her lips and was silent for a long moment, then stepped forward again and called, Shutra. Shutra looked at her blankly, confused, when he was suddenly yanked. Huh? Felicia pulled him close to her. She bluntly asked, can you take your shirt off? Shutra panicked, his face flushing bright red at her bold move. His gaze flicked toward her chest as he mumbled about her shirt. Finally, Shutra shifted his eyes to Felicia's pretty lips and stammered. But why? Her expression was slightly puzzled. She answered innocently, aren't you going to treat the wounds? A moment later, his face was full of speechlessness. He could only let out a sound. Felicia treated Shutra's wounds and calmly explained that what she did earlier was only first aid. She suggested he might have internal injuries, so she had to cast healing again. He sat cross-legged on the mat, thinking to himself in disappointment, oh my god. After a while, Felicia recalled something and said, by the way, your body glowed earlier. Was anything unusual? Shutra awkwardly answered, it's nothing. It happens sometimes. She repeated skeptically, sometimes? He looked at her cheerful face and exclaimed, that's not important. I have a favor to ask of you. She put her hands on her hips and asked suspiciously, a favor from me? Shutra's eyes sparkled as he stared at her and pleaded, yes. There's one thing only you can help me with, Felicia. At that moment the system notified, healing level 1 acquired, abnormal status recovery, antidote level 1 acquired, recovery after poisoning, cure level 1 acquired, recovery after illness. Shutra smiled, looking at the notification panel with excitement. Great. Really great. Thanks to Felicia accepting his request, he learned 3 healing spells. Once more the system chimed, healing level 1 achieved, antidote level 1 achieved, cure level 1 achieved. Shutra quietly reflected and glanced at the person ahead. And then, unexpectedly, someone behind exclaimed that today there were many Beast Fist schools. He happily concluded, finally, I'll learn Beast Fist too. Caitlin's face lit up. She cheerfully replied, today I'll teach you the Wolf's Beast Fist. Beast Fist, a martial art representing the Lycanthrope clan. Among them, the Wolf's Beast Fist is the foundation of Divine Beast Fist, which is likely why Caitlin chose to teach him this style. Caitlin explained while weaving magic with her hands that Beast Fist uses both external and internal aura, and today they'd start by teaching him how to control the aura inside his body. Shutra watched her hand movements and obediently replied, yes. Then she gently told him, okay, close your eyes and focus on your aura. He vaguely closed his eyes, sensing that he could feel it, the aura, the power of life. His hands and feet felt like electric currents running around them. The aura nearly touched the power of the soul. Once pushed to the limit, it would become true soul power. Shutra slowly opened his eyes. The strong light made him wince in discomfort. A system notification chimed. Passive skill protagonist's body level 1 acquired. He stood up quietly and glanced at the info panel, musing. After a moment, the notification continued. Protagonist's body level 1 enhances training efficiency for skills learned through the body. When a skill levels up, the traits for that level will be unlocked. Body protagonist, Shutra muttered hesitantly. He stared at it, unbelieving, thinking, what the hell is this? Another overpowered skill? It didn't stop there. The system reported again. Protagonist's body level 1, ultimate magical physique level 1, heroic bloodline level 1. Shutra concluded in horror that this put him on par with Zephyr's and Roke's passive skills. Furthermore, having distinct traits per level means that whenever the skill levels up, the system will add new traits. In other words, new features will be added with each rank up. After thinking it through, Shutra suddenly let out a sly laugh. His eyes glowed red with excitement. He clenched his fists and felt joy. So this is how it feels to be the protagonist. Thrilling, so thrilling. Suddenly someone called his name. Shutra. Caitlin looked at him puzzled and said, "What are you doing standing there like that? Focus." He startled and replied sheepishly, "Yes, sorry." In the cave she taught him again. "Now we'll truly start learning Beast Fist." Shutra said seriously, "Yes, please teach me." A short while later he was able to use Beast Fist to his own surprise. A notification sounded. Beast Fist level 1 acquired. Caitlin praised Shutra. Being able to execute the basic Beast Fist moves this quickly is truly astonishing. He looked down at his hands in amazement and thought, even though they're empty, it feels like I'm holding something. So this is Beast Fist. Caitlin prepared to continue teaching. She lowered her voice. "Now, Shutra, let's move to the next technique." Suddenly a wolf appeared out of nowhere and urgently called out, "Your Highness, there's big trouble." As soon as it finished, the two froze. Chris's face grew serious. He said coldly, "Kairam's troops have disappeared." Everyone standing by the table asked in unison, suspiciously, "What?" He glanced at the two and explained coolly, "It seems Kairam has seen through our strategy." Caitlin looked at him and asked, "So what's the plan now?" Chris pointed to a red flag on the map and said, "According to intelligence from General Bandal, it's very likely Yakujin and Kairam will rendezvous here. Judging by the terrain and positions, our prediction is likely correct." Shutra replied calmly upon hearing this. "Then, we must strike decisively." Afterwards Chris's face brightened. He exclaimed excitedly, "Now we'll join forces with General Bandal and launch a full-scale attack on the Red Thunder tribe, the main encampment of the force suppressing the Red Thunder tribe." The Red Thunder giant named Vandal growled and inquired, "You must have had a hard time getting here, Prince Chris." Prince Chris answered cheerfully, "You look the same as always." "Long time no see, General Bandal." The two chatted amicably along with Felicia. "Yes, it's been quite a while since I saw the princesses. How've you been?" After a few polite questions he asked, "Where are my subordinates?" "Don't worry, they're all safe." At the same time, Shutra's face broke into a fond smile as he looked over. In Night Saga, maybe that's why his fearsome face felt so familiar to me. After sizing him up, Shutra approached and raised his hand in greeting. "Pleased to meet you, Vandal. I'm Shutra." He studied the tiny figure intently, saying nothing. Finally Vandal extended a finger to shake his hand and said, "Yes, pleased to meet you, Ninth Prince Shutra." A beautiful young woman whose presence stirred the heart stood there, a radiant halo like light glowing behind her. She slowly opened her eyes. Her two eyes were completely different colors. She looked down at him coldly. A man in razor-like armor also stared at her. His eyes were full of slaughter, and flames surrounded him. Her face was emotionless as she quietly turned her head. His blue eyes seemed to sink into a deathly silence. At the same moment, Shutra stepped into the space, his face surprised as he looked at the two of them. His expression was full of worry and unrelenting tension. Conquest and war. Shutra suddenly jolted awake and quickly sat up in bed. His face was stunned. After a moment he mumbled, "A dream. I'm sure I've seen that woman in a dream before. But who was that woman in red?" Before he could finish guessing, Karak lifted the tent flap and urged him, "Prince, hurry up, we're about to depart." Shutra collected himself and replied, "All right." The two hurried to the meeting place of the dwarf group. The dwarves were carrying gear together around the camp. "In this battle, I was assigned to the left flank. Bandal commanded the center, Chris and Caitlin the right flank, and the Black Spirit clan, thanks to superior mobility, was assigned as an independent unit in the rear." The march began, and time passed in the blink of an eye, and a blaze of war erupted. Before I knew it, I had stood amid a battlefield of thousands. On the blood-soaked field, Shutra went pale, sweating as he kept watching them. Vandal spoke sternly and immediately ordered his subordinates, "Form battle lines. Teach those bastards some manners. All troops, advance." The captain finished, and the hordes of goblins rushed into the battlefield. On the other side, seeing them charging over, they were stunned in shock. Suddenly, a sneering, contemptuous laugh sounded. He cursed inwardly, "What idiots." Behind Vandal a blast rang out, terrifying them. He turned his head and asked in disbelief, "What was that?" Captain Vandal and his comrades were so astonished their jaws dropped. A giant mammoth stood there, staring coldly at them. At the same time, Vandal recovered from his daze and muttered, a swamp mammoth. Explosions continued to go off around him without cease. They hurriedly fled from the pre-installed explosives. The catastrophic blasts made it impossible for the dwarves to avoid them. The detonations roared in a terrifying, simultaneous barrage. Everyone stood there with mouths agape, frozen. Shutra's face was truly shocked. He stammered, We've fallen into a trap. Those bastards knew everything from the start. Swamp mammoth, the name sounds like a mammoth, but its size is nothing like a normal mammoth. In short, it's truly a monster. Its eyes burned with murderous intent as if about to devour. Shutra shivered as it stared at him like prey. He stood frozen. Suddenly, a dark green, clawed foot slammed into the ground. The lizards chuckled with contempt, licking their lips and sticking out their tongues. The dwarves stared in terror. Shutra also spun around, frowning and grinding his teeth as he murmured, "The lizard people have appeared too." Both sides lunged at each other, ready to tear one another apart. A lizard man suddenly leaped up in front of Shutra, startling him. At the same time, Karak jumped onto its back and struck it hard. Then he shouted anxiously, "Stay alert, Prince. One mistake and we'll all die here." Shutra jolted, calmed himself, and hesitantly replied, "Right." He thought helplessly, he's right. This isn't a game. Meanwhile, Chris was also attacking the Red Thunder Tribe's lair. He frowned and snapped angrily, "Damn it, don't tell me they knew everything and pretended otherwise to toy with us." Suddenly someone called to him. It was Caitlin. Seeing Chris's tense face, she urged, "I think we should retreat now and wait for another chance." He asked suspiciously, "What? But if we're wrong, the losses could be worse, even total annihilation." Caitlin cut him off. "If we keep going, casualties will only rise. You have to decide now is the time to withdraw." Hearing this, he only pursed his lips without answering. A moment later Chris roared, "All troops, obey orders," which shocked the dwarves. Standing above, he shouted commands. "Mages, form a defensive line in the rear and stall as long as possible. The rest, withdraw quickly. Do whatever it takes to return alive. Absolutely no dying." Evening fell. On the barren ground there was an encampment. Healers were rapidly tending to the dwarves. In a tent, Chris bowed his head and said ruefully, "I was too complacent. I should have had some doubts." Vandal glanced at him, folded his arms, and replied, "It's done. Now we have two choices. Full retreat or request reinforcements from the Demon King's castle." Hearing that, Chris frowned and said coldly, "Perhaps that's what we must do. We can't sacrifice everyone for a bit of glory. Then first report to the Demon King's castle." Suddenly Felicia raised her hand and said, "Wait, I have an idea. The reason we came to this area in the first place was to excavate ruins. The expedition's destination is here, at the edge of the Jishuka Mountains." Shutra's face was extremely calm as he pictured her. Felicia is an excellent mage, but even in Night Saga she's not a combat-focused character. Her talent leans toward research and archaeology. She walked to the table and slammed her hand down on the map with a soft rustle. Everyone gathered around the table to hear her explain. "I've long studied a ruin known in these mountains, the 1,500-year-old ruins, the cave of the earth dragon Enkidu. Enkidu, a dragon born of magma, placed countless guardians to protect its cave and its treasures. Among those guardians were dwarves who once lived in the Jishuka range. Enkidu had them craft weapons to defend the cave." Chris repeated doubtfully, "Weapons?" Felicia continued slowly, "A weapon of thunder and life. Not only can it control chimera created as guardians, but it's also a weapon capable of casting army-scale magic." Suddenly, Felicia slapped the table hard once more. She looked at them resolutely and calmly said, "If we want to win, finding it is our only option." Felsia regarded everyone with a solemn expression and added that this is exactly what she came here to find. Vandal, standing beside her, hesitated and asked, "Then, Princess, do you know exactly where the anvil is?" Her tone took on anxiety as she answered, "No, I only know this much." Chris remarked casually, "Then that basically doesn't help at all." He stated calmly, "We don't know when the enemy will strike. I can't risk everyone's lives to hunt for treasure right now." Hearing that, Felsia burst out in disbelief. "What, Chris, you recalled an earlier memory and could be certain it was true. You had seen the Thunder Anvil before." When playing the hero character, Roke, he thought and then put on a serious face to invent an explanation. "When I studied the Dwarven language, I found a related story. And most importantly, Shutra, without hesitation, expressed, I believe Felicia." Felsia was stunned, only able to stare at him, speechless. She was moved and murmured, "Shutra," while he was already lost in his thoughts, calculating that he needed to earn more points right now. Chris still disagreed with everything he heard. "Shutra, this isn't about trust. If we waste time here..." Shutra, seeing that felt helpless at Chris's stubbornness. Good grief, Chris is too headstrong. How can we put up with it? He immediately pointed to a spot on the map and said, the Gandharv people have a similar legend. At the same time, his mind raced to devise a plan. If so, Shutra's tone was full of resolve and assurance. The entrance to the ruins must be nearby. If we search around, I'm sure I can find it. If I fail, I'll take full responsibility. He looked everyone in the eye and pleaded earnestly, so please trust me this time. Privately, he decided he had to risk everything. A while later, a line of riders on translucent horses flew across the sky. Spectral war horses, summoned by Felicia. And that was Shutra's group. He guided his mount with one hand while his thoughts wandered. All right, finally convinced everyone to search for the anvil. Now the remaining task is, Karak, flying beside him, turned to warn anxiously, it's annoying, Your Highness. Hold the reins tight or you'll fall off. Hearing that, he felt a bit embarrassed and replied, okay, though inwardly he was confident. Fall off? What are you talking about? I rode these all the time when I was a Zephyr. After riding for a while, Shutra suddenly summoned up the display. He checked the group's position on the map and quietly calculated that at this speed they'd reach the entrance in about an hour. With the secondary map, finding the ruins wouldn't be difficult. He glanced at Felsia's silhouette behind him and worriedly considered how to lead them there naturally. Shutra closed his eyes, frowned, and strained to think of a solution. Finally, he gave up for the moment and comforted himself. Okay, I have 1 hour to figure this out. I can manage. But when they arrived, Shutra froze and awkwardly made up a story. After reviewing the tunnel map following the activation of the teleport gate, he had noticed a pattern. If you match the terrain here with the tunnel, you can infer the general location of the anvil. He was now extremely anxious. Would this actually work? Would this actually work? Then the whole group asked in unison, what do you mean? What are you saying? Shutra blushed inwardly and shouted in his head, oh God, I was bluffing. Leave me alone. At that moment, Felsia suddenly spoke. Lead the way, Shutra. He cried out in surprised disbelief. Felicia? She looked at him with trust and said, I understand what you mean. Lead the way. Shutra couldn't believe it and thought, I made that up? Could it really sound plausible? But his escort acted natural and stepped forward. All right, everyone, follow me. Behind them, Felsia's expression turned contemplative as she stared at his retreating back. After a while, the group stopped. Karak looked ahead in puzzlement and said, we followed the prince this far. But he hesitated and pointed out, this is a dead end. They saw a sheer cliff face in front of them. Karak turned to Shutra and asked, are you sure this is the right spot? It doesn't look like an entrance at all. Hearing that, he smugly replied, who's to say we have to enter through the entrance? He watched skeptically and listened in silence. Shutra glanced at Caitlin and made a request. Caitlin, can you break through this? She blinked in surprise and asked, me? He didn't hesitate to confirm. Yes, I'm counting on you. Give it everything you've got. At that she agreed, all right, I'll try. But behind her, Felsia suddenly recalled something and cried out in alarm. Don't tell me. She spun to look up at the cliff and, with incredulous emphasis, confirmed, the thunder anvil is embedded in that cliff. Shutra smiled confidently and explained his idea. Well, according to my calculations, breaking through the wall here will let us bypass the dungeon guards. He pointed at the wall and continued, so if you, Caitlin, pierce this wall. But before he finished, Felsia interjected. You idiot, you can't smash through it with your fists. She stepped forward, scolding him. Do you think Caitlin is a siege engine? Hearing that, he awkwardly rubbed his head. Then what should we do? Felsia said nothing and raised her hand. Immediately a rapid formation sphere appeared in her palm. She lifted it, aimed at the wall, and explained ruin archaeologists often pick up demolition and explosive skills. Felsia swiftly hurled the sphere, shattering the layer of rock and soil in front of them. Instantly, the thick, solid wall crumbled to pieces. It thundered down, producing a loud echo in the silent space. After that move, a passageway had been created. Felsia peered through the gap, and when she clearly saw what was inside, she couldn't believe it and muttered, impossible. Inside were the ruins of old, decayed architecture. She gaped and said, did you really find it that easily? Then the group filed in. Felsia saw an object in the center of the chamber and asked, what's that dome? Is the thunder anvil inside it? Shutra confirmed, yes, this must be the final protective layer, and the anvil lies within. Hearing this, Karak pressed the issue. So we just need to smash it? He calmly denied it. No, we can't. Doing that might damage the anvil. He then pondered deeply. There has to be a way to open it. Beside him, Felsia remained silent and listened. She turned and scanned the surroundings. Noticing several statues, she immediately pointed them out. Aren't these statues a bit odd? Of the 9 statues, 3 hold weapons and 6 do not. Caitlin agreed and followed that line of thinking. You're right, should we place weapons in the hands of the remaining statues? Felsia replied calmly, it's probably not that simple. She examined the stone figures closely and quickly analyzed. The weapons they hold are all forged by dwarves, so perhaps we must place dwarven weapons in those statues' hands. She asked anxiously, dwarven swords? Where would we get 6 swords? At that moment, Shutra stepped forward holding a pile of items and said, if 6 swords are needed, I happen to have exactly 6. Felsia exclaimed in surprise, what? He was secretly pleased. He hadn't expected the useless weapons he'd kept to come in handy. What luck. Then he nonchalantly explained, I picked up spare equipment while exploring the tunnel before, just in case. Karak, standing nearby, asked suspiciously, when did you pick them up, and how did you fit 6 swords in that pouch? Shutra inwardly felt helpless. He didn't like clever orcs like him, but outwardly he quickly changed the subject. What's the point of worrying, they're heavy anyway. Seeing this, Karak immediately forgot and fussed over him instead. My goodness, you're so weak. Give them to me. After a short while the weapons had been placed at the statues' positions. Each stone statue now held its assigned weapon, and in the next instant their eyes suddenly glowed. Then the chest in the center began to shine. They watched the lid slowly opening, and someone couldn't help but exclaim, the dome is opening. Before them, an object gradually revealed itself. Shutra whispered in horror, this is... He looked at the massive object ahead and cried in astonishment, the Thunder Anvil. Felsia studied the object in the center of the room, chin in hand, and said thoughtfully, wait, the records say a ritual is required to finally activate this anvil. Shutra repeated skeptically, a ritual? She didn't answer but immediately commanded, Shutra and Karak, stay where you are. The rest of you, take the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions on the circular plate. Felsia explained seriously, right now we'll start channeling mana into the plate, starting with me and moving clockwise, gradually increase the mana output. Everyone obediently followed, and within seconds they were standing around the anvil. Felsia led by raising both hands and signaling, alright everyone focus, begin. At her cue, everyone immediately channeled mana into the Thunder Anvil. She monitored the process while channeling, then glanced at Shutra and instructed, Shutra, push more mana through. He responded at once, yes, got it. Felsia looked around with a solemn tone. Good, keep it steady, and don't let your guard down. They continued to flood mana into the Thunder Anvil, but the weapon in the center showed no sign of changing. The group didn't give up. Shutra and the others persisted in channeling mana. He gritted his teeth and strained to marshal his power. Then, as if rewarded for their effort, a fierce bolt of lightning suddenly struck the rock in the desolate forest. But beside Shutra, he suddenly found himself in a strange place. He looked around in puzzlement to see what had happened. Suddenly a monster stomped down hard, creating a small hole in the ground. He saw thousands upon thousands of people and monsters all marching in the same direction. Shutra looked at them, face full of terror, muttering, what the hell is going on? Suddenly a voice rang in his ear. My subjects, listen. He looked up at the sound. Something was up there. In the sky, a massive specter gradually loomed over him. Shutra stood frozen, stunned and speechless. It looked down at the crowd and called out, protect the home of this great Enkidu. Shutra was so terrified he could only listen in silence as it spoke. Between the spirit realm and the human world, become the separating wall. Enkidu solemnly commanded, become the guardian of this place. The vision stopped there. In reality, Shutra suddenly snapped awake, panting in horror. He lay on the ground with wide eyes, unable to recover his composure. Recalling Enkidu's appearance, Shutra couldn't help but wonder. That was clearly a black dragon? Black dragon. Could it be the earth dragon Enkidu? At that moment someone called to him and asked, Shutra, you saw it too, right? It was Felsia. She came close to him and, hesitantly, said, a giant black dragon with molten lava flowing over its body. Karak spoke up from elsewhere. I saw it too, that dragon, so earlier we all witnessed the same illusion? She looked at him and replied worriedly, probably. I'm not sure what this signifies. Felsia glanced at the Thunder Anvil. Then she mused, but using this anvil should make it clear. She fell silent and stared at the anvil as if deep in thought. Then she raised her hand and touched the Thunder Anvil. In an instant, a purple light burst forth powerfully from the anvil. The force entered Felsia's body, yet she stubbornly refused to let go. The power overwhelmed her and she began to bleed from the nose. Finally Felsia couldn't endure it and coughed. Seeing this, Shutra anxiously rushed forward, calling, "Sis." She used the last of her strength to protest, "Stop." He ignored her and quickly placed his hand on her shoulder. Instantly, the draining light enveloped him as well. Caitlin shouted in alarm, "Shutra, sis." Karak also panicked and called out, "Your Highness." Shutra could no longer hear anything. The power was so intense it made him scream in pain. His spirit was now wrapped in the purple aura, and from it came an urging voice. "Conquer, the mana of the earth dragon Enkidu. A trial for the unacknowledged, conquer, and you shall rule." In reality, the anvil suddenly released an even stronger surge of energy. The phenomenon lasted several seconds and then stabilized. Caitlin and Karak stared ahead in shock, unable to move. As for Shutra, after that moment he regained consciousness and was kneeling on the ground. In his hand he now held a hammer radiating terrifying mana. Moreover, one of his eyes emitted a sinister black aura. Seeing this, Caitlin hesitantly called, "Shutra." Meanwhile, at an encampment in a mountain gorge, a member of the Red Lightning tribe was hiding on the cliff, spying on the dwarves below. After observing, he nodded to signal his comrades. He looked down at the dwarves idly resting and sneered with contempt, "You fools! Did you think we wouldn't know you were hiding here?" The Red Lightning glanced at the man standing respectfully beside him and asked, "So what's the plan now? Should we attack immediately?" He spoke cautiously, "Please give the order, Lord Yakuzan." The one he treated with such reverence was a burly Red Lightning named Yakuzan, the great chieftain of the Red Thunder clan. When Yakuzan heard the question, he glanced back, then issued a command, "Prepare to move out." Yakuzan declared viciously, "It's time to wipe out the remnants." Behind him a mass of Red Lightning soldiers and monsters stood waiting. The massive forms of the Karak advanced silently over the cracked ground, the air heavy with tension. Suddenly something happened above. Karak jerked his head up, his eyes full of shocked fear. A fireball appeared overhead, streaking relentlessly and throwing him into panic. Some of those fireballs fell to the ground, shaking the entire area. The Karak couldn't dodge in time. He tried to rally them. "How's everyone's morale? We must get through this rain of bombs together." One barrage after another rained down, while behind the Karak herds of mammoths and Kaichan charged closer. They were fierce, roaring loudly, each full of heroic fervor, meeting blow for blow. Chris gradually emerged. Everyone around fell silent, not daring to breathe hard. Seeing what unfolded, he ground his teeth with fiery eyes, furious. "Damn it, Caitlin and Felsia aren't here. At this rate we'll be wiped out." Someone watching from a distance noted Yakuzan's imposing presence as he witnessed people around him getting wounded. Yakuzan gave a savage grin, his fangs gleaming in the firelight. "Foolish demons, I commend you for knowing you can't win yet daring to fight." Then he ground his teeth and ordered, "Kaichan, unleash your magic now. Quickly annihilate the rest of them." At that moment his hand went numb and trembled, unable to move. Only then did he realize what was happening. It was too late. He was stunned. "Why can't my hand move?" Through the mist the giant mammoth took shape. It was no ordinary beast but steeped in malice, a symbol of hellish destructive power. Its enormous eyes blazed, rage erupting within the creature, generating a crushing pressure that split rocks and shook the air. The Kaichan below only had time to look up, their faces drained pale with fear. A roar thundered like lightning, tearing the sky apart. Power and madness merged, turning the battlefield into a chaotic sea of fire. Yakuzan stood on the cliff with his axe, looking down ready for battle. Witnessing the scene before him, he trembled and blurted out, "What is this? What's happening? Why are they attacking us?" Amid the blinding beams that shredded the chaotic air, the Karak group ran after, observed by Chris's watchful eyes. Seeing that sight, he was stunned into silence. In that moment time seemed to freeze. His hand tightened on his weapon, trembling slightly, as waves of dark power swirled around it. Don't even mention Shutra's manifestation, perhaps. A rising sense of dread surged, and a terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Have they found the anvil? A coil of purple-black energy rose as he stared at the object in his hands. The energy in Shutra's hand made him feel an ancient power stirring awake. What is this thing? From behind him, the mysterious figure gradually revealed an important secret. Shutra turned around in surprise, not yet fully understanding what was happening. The Thunder Hammer is the weapon paired with the anvil. Felicia appeared, seemingly injured. It looked like Enkidu had chosen you. Shutra couldn't believe what was before him and asked weakly, "You?" By now Caitlin and Karak were behind him. They all looked toward her. "There's no time," Felicia told Shutra. "What are you waiting for? Use it." Faced with that command, he couldn't act rashly. Instead he studied the weapon in his hand, brooding. A purple-black mana enveloped the strange hammer, ribbons of energy twisting and spiraling through the air, as if roaring to be released, producing such fierce momentum that even the atmosphere trembled. Enkidu's power had taught him how to wield it. Amid that explosion of power, his body was lifted into the air, shrouded in a bewitching purple light. Conquest and subjugation. Conquest, and from that, domination. That is the action of domination, the way to wield the thunder anvil. The purple-black mana continued to coil around Kshatra's hand. He spun his wrist and bolts of energy exploded outward like festival fireworks. A corner of his mouth lifted, not with cruelty but with a half-mocking challenge. First, should I try to control the swamp mammoth? Purple light burst like magical fireworks, surging. He was casting mana like a child playing with a new magic toy, determined to test every function at once. A gigantic beast erupted from the energy, magical radiance reflected in its blazing eyes. The battle was ferocious. A series of violent explosions produced blinding golden light and forces so strong they blasted earth and rock, sending those there flying. Chaos erupted as raging fires engulfed the area. Screams echoed amid the panic. What's happening? Why did it suddenly attack us? No one understood what was unfolding, only that the giant creature, silent until now, had suddenly turned on them violently and without warning. Amid the red glow of blood and flame, roars echoed as a colossal monster plunged down like a gale. Kaichan had sensed trouble before. Seeing the swamp mammoth attack the Red Thunder tribe, it seemed the prince and princess had succeeded. The battle erupted unexpectedly, bringing unprecedented chaos and savagery. Now's our chance. Wipe them out. Leave no one alive. Roars reverberated. Blades flashed as the two sides charged into each other in a frenzy. Blood and fire mingled. The clang of metal rang out incessantly. Yakuzen stood towering above, watching the scene below unfold. He could no longer bear it and turned to scold his clan. What the hell just happened? Why did the swamp mammoth become like that? I don't know, my lord. Who could wield that much mana? Vandal grew restless, unable to stay seated. Things had gotten serious. We should withdraw for now and wait for another opportunity. What? As the two voiced their opinions, an explosion erupted behind him, making Yakuzen turn his head to look. Chris landed with imposing force. The impact cracked the ground and raised a cloud of dust. Waves of pressure spread through the air, and Yakuzen only had time to look up in horror at the powerful figure descending before him. This looks like your end. The atmosphere was thick with tension, as if in the next instant war would erupt. If you surrender, I'll make you. Bastard. Finishing his words, the old man lunged with his weapon. Yakuzen, huge and fearless, charged. I'll tear you apart. He stood there, resolute and proud, blue eyes flashing, carrying the will of one who never yields. He struck with swift, controlled moves. Each blow he landed caused the old man increasing pain. His subordinates saw the fight tipping overwhelmingly to one side and faltered in fear. When it was over, they fled for their lives. Chris stood watching them. The great leader was dead, Yakuzen was dead. His hands were now stained with blood. After killing Yakuzen with an unforgettable move, he told them to run. Now it was just a matter of cleaning up the small fry. After sweeping away the enemies, he stood amid the battlefield and thought of them. Without those two, we would have been in real trouble. The reverie ended. Chris worried about the others, wondering if they were all right. On the blazing screen, chaotic images suddenly appeared. The battle scene was being broadcast live from the swamp. Everyone was stunned. So this was a direct feed from the swamp mammoth side. With the anvil, you can control all the sentries. Sweat dotted her brow as Felicia reassured herself that nothing too terrible would happen. After all, with the anvil's power, the Red Thunder clan. But an indescribable unease rose in her, as if total annihilation loomed. No sooner had she spoken than she collapsed. Everything had been too much for her. She could only rely on them, panic flooding Flo as they hastily embraced her. Seeing her condition, they anxiously checked on her after helping her up. Sister, are you okay? Felicia, are you all right? Don't worry. Rest a bit and you'll be fine. As everyone was about to find a place for the princess to rest. Yes, let's find a place for the princess to recover. An unexpected sound rang out. It cut through the stillness, freezing everyone. Their gazes turned toward the source of the voice, Shutra. Just catching his breath after the battle, Shutra was astonished as level-up notifications flashed repeatedly, as if the system were celebrating for him. He could finally breathe. He'd leveled up. As the successive level-up lights appeared, he stood dumbfounded. After so much struggle, he had received such a big reward. So many levels at once? Is it because I can wield Enkidu's relic? A pale golden light flared before his eyes with strange text that made Shutra stop, wondering what he'd just activated. His conquest level had risen. What is this? The system shone brilliantly as royal icons upgraded one after another. leaving him stunned at the growing power in his hands. Conquest LV2, Banner of the Sovereign LV2, King's Knight LV1, so the Banner of the Sovereign leveled up too. Shutra's eyes went upward. He watched intently, marveling that the banner leveled up along with Conquest. Not certain, but it's good that the main skill got stronger. He reached out to touch the new icon, inspecting it with curiosity, then exclaimed with excited skepticism, "The King's Knight? What kind of skill is that? Just the name sounds like a summoning ability." Immediately after, a clear voice called out, "Shutra." In the quiet forest, Caitlin stood in dark battle gear, her eyes wary and surprised Sister Caitlin. In that moment, the two stood facing each other in the deep woods as if time had stopped. An unexpected reunion between comrades who had fought side by side. "Oh right, you left without saying a word." Shutra had barely started to smile when Caitlin punched him square in the head, showing clear anger mixed with concern. "Sorry," she then shouted, her voice trembling with irritation and emotion. "How could you disappear like that without a word in a place like this? Shutra, sorry." Seeing he was truly remorseful, Caitlin sighed and her tone softened noticeably. "You're safe, that's good. Come back quickly. Maybe we'll have to camp here tonight. Weren't we supposed to head home right away?" But as they began to move, the situation turned worse than expected. The original plan had been set, yet we ran into some trouble. Her stern expression made Shutra frown slightly. Surprise flickered in his eyes. "Trouble? Huh." Her breath was weak, nearly fading into the surrounding darkness. "Sister Felicia has fainted." One of the mages bent down to check her. The air grew heavy, only the quiet hum of mana remained. She had only recently been captured by the Chain Tribe and released. It seemed she had overexerted herself. Caitlin glanced at the teammate lying unconscious. Before she passed out, she said a short rest would be enough. But who knew when she'd wake? She forced a smile, eyes hardening with resolve. "Without her we can't summon the illusion mounts, so we'll have to stay and monitor the situation for a while." Her voice whispered in the stillness, more to reassure herself than anyone else. "I understand. I wonder if Sister Felicia will be okay." The silent night sky blanketed the mountain range with a cold, misty veil. The giant Karak lay motionless in the hall, while a few others leaned against the walls, breathing heavily from exhaustion. Shutra sat silently on a stone step, arms crossed, gaze distant. His breathing was still heavy, yet his mind would not settle. Leaning against the cold rock wall, he closed his eyes and felt the energy coursing through his body. Was full recovery of his stamina really due to leveling up? The post-battle fatigue gradually faded, leaving an odd clarity. Silence shrouded the ruins, only the night wind slipping through toppled pillars. "Strange. I don't feel tired at all. Do we have to wait like this until morning?" A sudden cold gust blew through, prompting Shutra to open his eyes slightly. His gaze landed on a stone door tucked in a corner of the ruins he hadn't noticed before. Thinking back, this is a relic, so surely deep within the dungeon there will be weapons or treasure. The thick darkness shifted. From the blackness dozens of glowing red eyes slowly appeared, the spirit scene of the ruins awakening. The air turned viscous and oppressive, as if ready to swallow every breath. Of course there would also be traps and guards, but instead of fear, Shutra clenched his fist. A black-purple energy surged, running along his arm and burning bright in the night like a phantom flame. At that moment the energy exploded, darkness coalesced in his palm and formed into the shape of a sinuous weapon, alive as if it had its own soul. "What if I am the rightful master of this relic?" Ahead, the giant black stone anvil trembled slightly as strange waves of energy radiated out, merging with the power within him. The power the anvil's master can wield in this relic. Purple light cast across his face, reflecting in his blood-colored eyes with a dazzling, arrogant gleam, and here, it held absolute power. "In other words, I already have my ticket through." In front of him, the massive form of Karak sprawled out, sleeping on the cold stone floor. Soft snores mingled with a low voice calling quietly, "Karak? Karak? Huh?" Hearing the call, Karak startled awake. Shutra was already waiting, a mysterious smile on his lips. "Come with me to a place." There, flames flickered against cracked stone walls, the fire roaring fiercely. The two stepped deeper into the dark corridor of the ancient relic. Karak frowned and spoke with concern. "Is it safe to go on like this? If something happens, I'm the master of this relic, what is there to worry about?" The heavy stone door opened and a cold breath exhaled from within. "Think carefully. This is a relic, of course there will be top-tier weapons." Indeed. Suddenly Karak froze, eyes widening in terror. From the darkness, a colossal creature slowly emerged, its body clad in heavy metal armor, razor-sharp claws scraping the stone floor with a chilling sound. "Your Highness, There's a giant monster over there. Although Karak gaped, sweat pouring down his brow, Shutra beside him remained calm, arms crossed as he watched the moving creature. An arc golem, and even in a griffin form. Arc golem, there's one of those. Just treat it as an extremely strong guy. The two backed away quietly, trying not to make a sound while the giant metal monster still slept. If we'd come in the usual way, we might have died here. Seriously, enough with the bad omens, let's move quickly. His eyes skimmed the massive form sprawled on the stone floor. His low voice trembled slightly. Look at that terrifying size. If possible, I don't want to fight something like this. Karak, I can't believe you're such a coward. I'm not a coward, I'm being careful. Just then the stone door at the end of the corridor slowly opened, revealing a lone light inside. Moments later, an excited shout echoed through the space. Your Highness, I found it. It's a treasure. Karak's eyes widened with undisguised delight. He grabbed the armor and held it up. Look, it looks like high-quality armor. You were right, it looks decent. Shutra squinted, sensing a faint flow of mana in the air. He could feel a weak magical aura. So this is magic armor. The words escaped him, but he also thought of his teammates. Karak, do you want to take it? Really? Can I actually take it? Seeing Karak so happy, Shutra couldn't help but smile. After all, it's far too big for me. Thank you, truly thank you, Your Highness. He froze, surprised, and looked toward the wooden table where a small chest was emitting a faint glow. Without hesitation, Shutra grabbed it. The coin bears a dragon, how majestic. Is this ancient gold? I should store useful things in the inventory chest first. Then he turned around and reached for the item, but didn't forget Karak's voice. Karak, if there's anything worth taking, just take it. He thought that was all, but something behind caught his curiosity. He stepped forward and opened the chest. Something inside made Shutra exclaim, "What is this?" As if drawn by something, he glanced toward it. A sound came from behind when he opened the chest. A soft noise echoed at the rear door. Inside that door glowed pink and looked enticing. What is it? It seemed to be someplace. A mystery. The door had fully opened, revealing a secret space. Seeing that, Shutra's eyes brightened. It captivated him and robbed him of his composure. I have a feeling there's something good here. That attraction drew Shutra closer and he stepped inside, past the corridor into a vast space. Entering the mysterious chamber, it looked beautiful with the purple flames blazing. Passing the corridor opened into a large area. His gaze fixed on some invisible point. Shutra's breath slowed as if he'd noticed something strange. There. Huh? A brilliant purple light flared in the center of the room, emitting an unusual energy that made the air heavy. There it is. Before Shutra, an object hovered in midair, slowly rotating in a bewitching glow as if breathing. I know this mana. The purple light reflected in his red eyes. He felt astonishment mixed with caution. Though he'd never seen it before, the name popped into his head. Enkidu, the Gauntlet of Enkidu. Amid the whirling purple light, a strange armored object with jagged edges radiated a suffocatingly powerful presence. Pseudo-seismic. Shutra stood before the gauntlet hovering in the flames. He opened his eyes wide and stared at it, whispering unconsciously. Radiance, Conquest Knight, Enkidu Gauntlet, Pseudo-seismic. Step by step, Shutra drew closer. He reached out as his thoughts urged. Pseudo-seismic, it's calling me. Just as he was about to touch it, then suddenly a force pushed back, preventing his hand from getting closer. Your level is insufficient, your mana is insufficient, your spirit power is insufficient, your strength is insufficient. Shutra froze for a moment. What is this? I can't touch it yet? Just as he panicked, a mysterious voice issued from the gauntlet. I permit. A blinding light burst from the gauntlet. The pseudo-seismic has acknowledged you as its master. Bit by bit, it broke apart into many pieces. When he saw the system display changing the pseudo-seismic's owner to Shutra, he joyfully reached out. The gauntlet immediately enveloped Shutra's hand. The excitement in his eyes was uncontrollable. After a while, he stared at his right hand wearing the gauntlet, wondering if it had really acknowledged him as its master. Then the system panel appeared. Strength plus 10, mana plus 10, stamina plus 10. Seeing those lines, his mouth fell open. My god, just an item can boost my stats this much. Shutra did the math in his head. Imagine once my level actually increases. He immediately broke into a radiant smile. Wonderful. His heart filled with exhilaration and he thought proudly. This item is even better than I imagined. The Enkidu Gauntlet. Suddenly Karak, who had somehow been standing behind him, called out and startled him. Your Highness, what was that just now? Shutra was so shocked he stammered. Karak, since when have you been there? He nonchalantly replied. I saw the whole thing, even when your highness made the gauntlet vanish. He scratched his head. So you've seen everything. My mind's in knots. Damn, it would be troublesome if this leaks out. Fortunately, he only stroked his chin and nodded. I don't know what it is, but if this gets out it would be quite problematic. Karak pounded his chest with his fist and affirmed. Don't worry. This stays between us, right? Even with a sword at my throat, I'd keep your secret. Shutra's heart swelled at his loyalty. Karak didn't make a big deal of it. If your highness has gathered everything needed, we should head back. He smiled as he detected annoyance in the other's tone. I don't really like this place. It makes me uneasy. Shutra nodded. Let's go back. The two quickly made their way toward the exit. His eyes suddenly brightened as he noticed something. Shutra hurried off somewhere. Wait. Karak? The latter looked at him blankly. Is there something else, your highness? When Shutra asked, didn't you see it? Karak froze. See what? He pointed to the glittering jewels in a corner. That's exactly what we need right now. Drops of medicine were administered to the unconscious girl. The magical potion quickly took effect, radiating a blinding glow. Felsia slowly opened her eyes. Shutra cradled her gently and asked, Sister, do you feel any better? She barely moved her lips. Shutra. Caitlin knelt beside them and burst into tears. Thank God. Sister, you're really okay. While Felsia hadn't fully grasped the situation, Caitlin, what happened? She wiped the tears from her eyes and explained to her sister that it was thanks to Shutra bringing the mana-restoring elixir here. Felsia, still dazed, sat up. The mana-restoring elixir? Where did that come from? Shutra spoke up. Have you forgotten where we are? Now she was fully awake. The ruins. Shutra nodded, yes. He grinned and pointed at himself. Don't forget, I'm the owner of these ruins. As if worried she'd overthink it, Shutra added, Don't worry, sister, rest now. When you wake your mana will be fully restored. Felsia suddenly called Shutra, and of course he quickly replied, yes. The elf maiden's cheeks flushed pink. Shy, she avoided meeting his eyes and whispered, Thank you. As dusk fell over the entire camp, the friends happened to return. Vandal, spotting them, brightened and said eagerly, At last everyone's back. He threw his head back and laughed aloud. I knew it. The prince and princess would succeed. Good job, everyone. A few deliberate coughs drew Shutra and Felsia's attention. When Felsia looked over, she couldn't help but speak up to the tall figure before her. Chris. He hesitated. About that. Unbelievable. A burly guy gets all red and shy just praising his sister. That was an excellent show, ma'am. Felsia kept her usual haughtiness and turned away. It's nothing special. Shutra watched the princesses retreating back and thought to himself. Proud indeed. Chris didn't linger either and hurried off. Well, get some rest. We'll handle things here. Shutra, surprised at the prince's retreating back, asked, It's not finished yet? He turned and explained, Remnants of the Red Thunder tribe are still out there. Clearing them completely will take at least half a month. Shutra perked up at that. So I'll get 2 weeks off? Suddenly Caitlin leaned to his ear and whispered, Rest? Not a chance. The warmth at his ear made his gaze tremble. Yes, the princess standing before him smiled. Shutra, we still have work to do. In the vast forest, morning light filtered through thick branches. Beams fell onto the leaf-strewn ground, the air thick with moisture and the scent of wild grass. A thud rang out as Shutra's stomach took a heavy punch. His breath hitched. The punch had been decisive, powerful, and clean, delivered by a slender, delicate hand. Caitlin clenched her fist, eyes sharp. Shutra, if you lose focus now, you'll be in real danger. Shutra lay on the ground, sweat mixing with dust. He looked up at his trainer as she ordered, Get up. He thought to himself, I knew it would be hard, but this is too much beast fist training. Shutra remembered that afternoon after leaving the ruins. Caitlin had said the task was beast fist training. During the first 5 days, all I did was get beaten and bruised. After a week, I could finally see Caitlin's fist. Then, on the 11th day of training, the moment Caitlin's punch came like thunder. This time Shutra leaned and dodged. She smiled slightly and swung her fist. You've caught up, haven't you? He parried and smiled back. Yes, after being pounded into paste so many times. They trained until nightfall. Perhaps thanks to the harsh regimen, both Beast Fist and Aura reached level 5, and Caitlin said, Good. She wiped the sweat from her temple. At this rate, you'll be ready to enter the Divine Beast Fist discipline soon. Shutra widened his eyes. Really? Caitlin curled her lip in praise. Honestly, I'm impressed. I've never seen anyone improve this fast. Shutra felt a thrill. Finally, I'm about to learn it. The Beastkin's secret technique, Divine Beast Fist. Caitlin took both his hands. From now on I'll teach you a new way to control aura. She warned carefully, don't miss any detail, follow me exactly. Understand? Shutra? He nodded yes. Their hands tightened together. A terrifying surge of power radiated out. Shutra closed his eyes and relaxed his senses. He could feel Caitlyn's aura. His mind focused to the max. It pulled him along, like Beast Fist, yet different. He sensed depth in the flow of the aura. Aura is the essence of life. When driven to its limit, it transforms into soul power, conquest. A brutal power of dominion, the force to seize and subdue. This is true aura. Suddenly, the aura around them erupted violently. The system in Shutra's head popped up. Beast Fist leveled up. Aura leveled up. Caitlyn opened her eyes wide and looked at him, incredulous. Shutra. She stared in amazement at Shutra's hands wrapped in aura. You actually did it. The system announced simultaneously. You have mastered Divine Beast Fist Level 1. Shutra looked down at his hands. Divine Beast Fist and Seismic Fist. He clenched his fist. The aura around him gradually came under Shutra's control. This time the system announced, you have leveled up to 14. Shutra couldn't help but smirk. Yes, he was 10 times more excited, unaware that a large figure was hiding behind a tree watching him. This is it, the real beginning. Vandal had no idea how long he'd been there. A satisfied smile sat on his face. In an instant, sunlight flooded the camp the next morning. Shutra and Caitlyn were enjoying breakfast when he spoke up. Right? With his arms folded on the table, Shutra looked at the princess across from him. Sister Caitlyn, can I ask you something? She looked up. What is it? Hearing the question, Caitlyn flinched for some reason. What's going on between Chris and Felicia? Actually, Shutra was a bit worried. Like Chris, Felicia is someone I want on my side. If their relationship is strained, it would be troublesome. She hesitated. They're not enemies, but there's a sense of distance between them. Really. Finally, Caitlyn sighed. There's no feud between them, so why is it like that? She continued, to Shutra's surprise. I'm not sure, but it might relate to issues between Chris and Sylvan. When he heard that name, he blurted out, Sylvan. Caitlyn immediately warned. Careful. Don't call his name like that even if he's not here. Sweat trickled down his head. Sorry, sis. I slipped. Shutra thought to himself. Felicia's twin brother, Sylvan Doomblade, when I played Zephyr, he was a formidable rival. He wanted to probe for more information. So, is there something between Chris and SYLV? But the question was cut off when Chris drew back the curtain and entered. So you two are here after all? He stammered, Chris. Caitlyn was startled too. What? You arrived early? Chris didn't notice the two of them looking uneasy and said, Pack up. Work finished sooner than expected. We'll leave this afternoon. Still a bit flustered, Shutra asked again. Leave where? This made him laugh. Are you asking for real or pretending not to know? After the mission we have to report back. Vandal held out a finger for Shutra to take. You all did very well, princes and princesses. He bowed gently. I look forward to our next meeting, 9th Prince. Shutra returned the smile warmly. Likewise, Bandal. After a moment Chris spoke up. All right, let's go. Shutra quickly answered, yes, let's go. Afternoon light flashed across Chris's golden hair. Let's set out, back to the Demon King's castle. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's castle, the sky was blood red, casting everything in that hue. In the throne room someone had taken their seat. The mysterious figure wore terrifying armor, deep red like blood. So the group set off through the night. The road back to the Demon King's castle was fairly straightforward. After discussion the group decided, first head to the long-distance teleport gate, then use teleportation magic to reach the Demon King's castle. That night they set up tents and lit fires to rest. The nearest teleport gate was 3 days' travel away, and that's without stopping. Under the high moon they camped again for another night. Shutra sat in the moonlight and murmured, the Demon King's castle. Now that we're truly arriving tomorrow, I'm starting to get nervous. He used a small branch to write names in the dirt. Zephyr, Bokal, Anastasia. Right now 3 factions hold power within the Demon King's castle. Shutra first thought of the Demon King's second son, the most formidable rival, second Prince Zephyr Ragnaros. Next was the eldest son, Grand Prince Baikal Ragnaros, and finally 4th Princess Anastasia Nekrian. Birth order doesn't matter in the struggle for the throne. Whoever contributes more and wields greater power will dominate. Among them Baikal and Zephyr are true brothers, evenly matched. With draconian blood from their mother, their faction holds overwhelming influence. Still, if I had to pick who deserves the throne, I'd choose the calm, steady eldest brother Baikal. Shutra, not wanting to overthink, said, it doesn't matter anymore, because when that day comes, everything will change. Shutra pressed his lips and vowed silently. I must prepare for everything, piece by piece. He began calculating his next moves. First, I'll level up enough to master Seismic Fist. Then I'll fully exploit this new power. Suddenly Shutra said, Royal Knight. The system immediately emitted mechanical sounds. Activating Royal Knight, an order for a knight had formed. When the system panel appeared, he was surprised. He thought it was just a normal summon skill. King's Knight level 1. Wait, isn't this basically a guild system? Shutra covered his mouth in amazement. Buffs, training, even summoning. This skill is overpowered. He grinned, ecstatic, level 1, and it's already like this. Imagine how strong it'll be at higher levels. Just then Karak approached and said, So you were hiding here. He barked sternly. Why aren't you asleep, Prince? We depart at dawn, you need to rest. Karak reminded him again. Come on, go to sleep now. But Shutra, still lost in his joy, said, Karak, you arrived just in time. He flashed an innocent, radiant smile and asked, Help me try this. Will you? Seeing Shutra's demeanor, he was flustered. What are you planning to do? Then, in the night his voice rang out, Karak, mighty orc warrior. Shutra swung his sword forward. He placed the sword on Karak's shoulder and said solemnly, From this moment on, I dub you my knight. Immediately something seemed to change within his body. Karak stammered, Prince, there's something, this feels strange. Then he smiled and looked straight at Shutra as if his loyalty to him had surged. At that moment the system panel appeared. Knight Commander Karak level 24. Seeing that, Shutra grinned excitedly and put his hand on Karak's shoulder. Right? Perfect. This is exactly what I needed. He also looked at his own hands and marveled. This power is extraordinary. But what exactly is this system? Suddenly Shutra called. Karak, his eyes sparkled as he asked, Do you want to become the strongest living orc? As he spoke, Shutra imagined the future. Just wait. I'll train you to become the supreme orc emperor, like in Night Saga. A beast that can rival the dragonkin. With this flourishing flora, in time Karak murmured, Prince. He hesitantly asked, Are you sure? I'm not sick, am I? Finally morning came, and sunlight poured down from above. Their group reached the teleportation gate. The blonde smiled at Shutra and said, All right, let's go. He returned the smile softly. Yes. Then they all stepped onto the teleportation gate before them. A moment later the group stood ready inside. The gate began to tremble, making Shutra start. A light flashed from the top of the tower, illuminating the entire forest. Unfamiliar with it, he was confused by the gate's pull. Shutra couldn't help breaking into a cold sweat as he shouted, Wait! Then he let out a desperate cry as he was sucked toward the light ahead. When he opened his eyes, Shutra and everyone else had appeared in a different place. Everyone stood upright as normal except him. Caitlin immediately asked, Shutra, are you okay? He recovered and replied, Yes, I'm fine. Then he looked toward Felicia as a chorus of voices called out, Princess Felicia. Immediately many women of her clan ran over joyfully, saying, We have been waiting for the princess. Her radiance shines as brightly as ever. Seeing them, Felicia happily greeted each person. Shutra was astonished by the scene. It was like an idol fan club. Were those her attendants or retainers? Then another voice rang out, Prince Chris, we have awaited your return. Lady Caitlin, your beauty grows ever more radiant. Long time no see. How is everyone? Chris and Caitlin were warmly greeted. Seeing this, he felt a bit embarrassed. Was no one paying attention to him? Suddenly 2 girls over there muttered to each other, Wait, are you serious? Shutra reflexively looked their way. They seemed to be discussing something. He fell silent and suddenly realized, Yes, now I understand. This is my standing in the Demon King's castle. Shutra sighed softly. Oh well, I've known this all along. Then he turned to him and said, Karak, are you ready? Shutra smiled without backing down. Let's start changing this place, one step at a time. After that, they went to a nearby inn. The place was quite simple, with cobwebs in the corners. The furnishings bore the wear of time. Karak finished putting things in the room and said, I think we can unpack our luggage here, while Shutra sat on the bed and sighed. At least we still have a room to stay in. Then he turned to say to him, They said the formal events start tomorrow, so we can rest comfortably until then. Shutra, helpless at Karak's optimism, thought comfortable, what comfort? It's like being abandoned. Then suddenly there was a noise from outside the door. A girl entered and said, It's an honor to meet you. I am Flora Sevensword from the Demon King's Castle Real Estate Management Office. Shutra immediately showed his displeasure. What is someone from the real estate office doing in a shabby place like this? Flora replied that it was because the 9th prince's achievement level had increased. She added that he could choose a new residence. Hearing that, he was astonished. Shutra then went straight to the merit office. The girl smiled. I'm Isabella from the merit office. Greetings to the ninth prince, representing the merit office. Isabella. He asked right away, I heard I can receive a new residence here, right? Isabella maintained a respectful tone and replied, Yes, that's correct. You've come to the right place. Then she smiled and opened the system panel. Isabella reviewed the information and said, Ninth Prince Shutra Ignis has advanced to achievement level 5 after the recent extermination campaign. Therefore, the facilities you are allowed to use within the Demon King's castle have expanded, and your monthly allowance has increased from 5 gold to 500 gold. She couldn't help praising him. You are the first to reach this amount of merit on your very first mission. Hearing that kind of multi-level marketing tone, Shutra forced a smile and said, Ninth Prince. Really? Then he asked, Can you tell me now which residence I've been assigned? Isabella replied, Yes, of course. A moment later Karak looked up in amazement and stammered, Wah, Prince. Before them stood a luxurious building. He was moved. Is this really the prince's new residence? Suddenly someone approached and said, You arrived early. Flora said respectfully, I am honored to serve as the housekeeper of this place starting today. This girl is the same staff member as before, Flora Sevensword. Karak, puzzled, whispered, What's going on? Didn't she just say she's from the real estate office? Shutra smiled calmly and said, There's such a thing as merit points, so I use those points to hire her. He also explained further, like reward points earned by accumulating achievements, basically that you don't need to understand. Hearing that, he marveled, Prince, you've been speaking strangely lately. The next day, the scene here was still as gloomy as before. Karak complained to Shutra, Prince, I keep needing to use the restroom. It's probably from being nervous, right? Hearing that, Shutra admonished, Don't talk nonsense. Just go use the restroom quickly. Shutra had changed into another elegant outfit and, equally flustered, exclaimed, When you say that you make me nervous too. Suddenly someone came up and said, You two look really dashing. Felicia smiled and exclaimed, Who picked your outfits? Caitlin had changed into a luxurious evening gown and happily praised, Just as I thought. It's Felicia, wonderful. Hearing that, she didn't deny it and said, Well, it was worth the effort. Then Caitlin winked at Shutra. You look very handsome. Shutra. It suits you well. He blushed and replied shyly, Thank you. Both of you look beautiful too. She blushed and scratched her head. Really? Thanks. Shutra, over there Felicia turned away and murmured, Of course. Then the blonde walked over, propped an elbow, and asked, Thinking back, this is your first debut ceremony, right, Shutra? Shutra looked up when he saw him. Chris? The blonde smiled and offered a handshake, praising him. You're the center of attention today. Show the entire Demon King's castle your best. Hearing that, Shutra felt less flustered and said, Yes. Then the doors opened and blinding light poured in. Some might call it just luck. Faces from inside appeared. Every gaze focused on Shutra as he was about to step out, but everyone would soon have to pay attention to him. Then their group walked out confidently, smiling. He thought to himself that they would see him differently, the prince they once dismissed as useless. Finally they stood before the hall, facing countless staring eyes. The blonde looked up and introduced himself. Seventh Prince Chris Moonlight. I present myself to the great Demon King. Above, a large shadow sat on the throne. Mitra's face looked cold and unreadable. Demon King Mitra. The man beside him smiled and said, I will now report the accomplishments of the princes and princesses. Below, Shutra tensed silently. Demon King Mitra, the father of all the princes and princesses of the Demon King's castle. He couldn't help clenching his lips. He'd forgotten. Pressure radiated from Demon King Mitra. He was the most fearsome figure in this castle. Shutra's whole body stiffened as he wondered, what is this pressure? He felt the other's sharp eyes on him. Just meeting that gaze made him feel as if he would disintegrate. Suddenly a gentle voice sounded. Conquer. A brilliant golden light burst from Shutra's chest. A woman's voice reminded him, You are a king too, and claim that gaze as well. Silently kneeling, his mind echoed the command. Conquer. Make that very authority submit. Hearing those words, Shutra immediately gritted his teeth and steeled his resolve. Then he raised his head and looked straight at Demon King Mitra. Shutra's eyes flashed with fearless light. That was the power of a conqueror. At the sight of his gaze, the Demon King also looked down. He suddenly spoke, Shutra. At that name, Felicia flinched. Both the blonde and Caitlin gaped in surprise. Shutra looked up, slightly surprised, eyes wide at Demon King Mitra. He looked down and, in a steady low voice, said, I look forward to your next achievements. Those nearby murmured, What is this? His Majesty has never personally named princes or princesses during an audience. All eyes turned to Shutra. Why the ninth prince? Someone with no reputation? He stared at the king in shock. The words sounded ordinary, Yet they were words the Demon King had never spoken, that made them immensely precious. Shutra pressed his lips as if pondering something deeply. Then he fixed Mitra with a calm, unwavering stare and said, "I will not fail your majesty's expectations." His first audience, Shutra Ignis, had concluded, leaving a strong impression on everyone. Back at Shutra's house, a loud shout urged him. "Prince, what are you doing? Get up now." He sat up dazed and groggy, asking, "What is it? So early?" Karak hurriedly said, "There's a letter from the merit office." Shutra took the letter, opened it, and wondered why it was from the merit office. He immediately widened his eyes in surprise at its contents. He peeked over curiously and asked, "What's written in it?" "Someone say it quickly." Shutra murmured quietly, "How should I interpret this?" He looked up with an awkward smile. "It seems the Demon King, no father, personally assigned me a task." Meanwhile, at 7th Prince Chris's place, the blonde smiled at the letter in his hand. "Suppress the Cassius Pack. This is a monster hunting mission." The purple-haired one added, "So you'll be going to the Anger Plains." Shutra raised a question. "The Anger Plains? Isn't that where the Centaur tribe lives?" She answered, "Yes. You've been there before," the blonde continued. "Suppressing the Cassius Pack is an annual event." He said apologetically, "I wanted to go with you too, but we have other matters." The purple-haired one beside him assured him, "It's fine. Shutra will do great." Then suddenly the blonde added, "Also, Shutra," his face turning serious as he warned, "a lot of people will be paying attention to you from now on. Both those who want to approach you and those who are wary of you. There will be plenty to worry about going forward." Shutra understood and considered this. "I thought so too. I heard even Zephyr was never named during an audience." The blonde smiled to reassure him. "If you need help, tell us any time." Shutra replied, "Thanks, Chris." He added, "Before you leave, meet Princess Felicia. She has something she wants to give you." Shutra grew curious. "For me?" Night had fallen. A red moon shone across the sky. The white-haired woman took out 2 mounts and told them, "If you plan to travel with centaurs, you'll definitely need speed." She touched them and smiled. "Ride these." Seeing them, Shutra exclaimed happily, "Thank you, sister." Then the white-haired woman suddenly produced something else and placed it in his hand. "And this too." Shutra couldn't help but ask, "What else is this?" In his hand lay a brilliantly glowing blue stone, the tears of the Dark Sylph. Shutra stared at the pendant in shock. To receive a secret treasure of the Dark Sylph tribe like this, normally I'd have to kill Felicia to get something like this. She murmured, "The Dark Sylphs are a tribe of honor. They never forget favors or grudges." The white-haired woman embraced him with deep affection. "Don't get hurt, and travel safely, Shutra." Shutra blushed, thinking he hadn't expected Felicia to do such a thing. Embarrassed, he said, "I understand." Suddenly the surprise clearly flustered Shutra. Seeing this, he looked bewildered and said, "Sister?" She didn't look at him and turned away shyly. "It's good that you understand." Seeing her demeanor, Shutra guessed, just as I thought. She's probably embarrassed. Then they stood on the teleport gate. Before leaving he waved, "I'm off. Take care of yourself until I return." The gate activated instantly. The white-haired woman silently watched them disappear. Then she looked up and gave a gentle smile. They were then teleported to the Anger Plains. Both of them flinched, still unused to this kind of teleportation. Karak turned to ask, "Are we there?" Shutra, sweating, replied, "Probably." Suddenly a voice sounded behind them. "I respectfully greet the 9th Prince." A girl with 2 black horns bowed with a polite smile. "I am Karma, a ranger. I will be your guide." Shutra stared, embarrassed at her appearance, and said, "Pleased to meet you, I'm Shutra." He thought to himself that her upper half was human while her lower half was beast. Karma acted professionally, placing a hand on her chest and saying, "Yes, Lord Shutra, it's an honor to meet you." Seeing this, he mused that she might be of the forest deity tribe. Finally Shutra decided, "Then let's set out right away." Karma's feet moved like a blade as she dashed ahead. She outpaced both Shutra's and Karak's mounts and said, "It will take at least 2 days to reach the Centaur settlement from here. I plan to travel with few stops. Okay?" He chased after her and replied, "Fine, I'm all right." As they went, Karma asked, "Shouldn't you have brought more soldiers?" Hearing that, the 9th answered, "The assignment came too suddenly, so it's just the 2 of us for now." She cheerfully told him, "Still, with Centaur support we won't be lacking in numbers." Shutra couldn't help but remark, "Pack versus pack." At that point he began calculating his next move. The remaining issue is weapons. If fighting as cavalry, spears might be better. Suddenly a sound came from afar that made them start and turn around. Shutra asked curiously, "What was that?" Karma immediately said, "Wait, Let me check. Then she leaped off and sped away like the wind. A short while later Karma reached the source of the noise. When she saw it she was perplexed and said, "This is, below." A pack of wolves was chasing members of the centaur tribe, the Cassius. Why were they here? Their faces were savage as the entire pack lunged forward. The man in front ran quickly too, but it looked like they were closing in on him. At that moment a Cassius was about to grab him. He startled and turned around. Then the man screamed in panic. Suddenly a figure rushed in and knocked the Cassius aside. It was flung into a nearby cliff, striking rock with a loud crash. The mount's claws slammed into the ground with powerful force. Shutra guided it to block in front of the man. He looked at the Cassius pack and remarked, "Looks like the welcome party's a bit early." Shutra's hand began to transform as he prepared to activate Seismic Fist. "But it's fine." He smiled confidently. After all, he was itching to get some action. Shutra shouted excitedly, "Bring it on, you mongrels." The man behind asked in astonishment, "Who are you? Are you a prince?" At that moment the mount's foot struck the ground sharply. It reared up, planted itself before the pack, and growled ferociously. Then it immediately lunged toward Shutra's position. Seeing that, he still smiled with contempt and said, "So you're the alpha, huh?" Behind them, Karma and Karak had run up. "Are you all right, your highness?" he asked anxiously. "You can't just charge in alone like that, it's dangerous." He immediately signaled to them, "I'm fine, just stand still and watch." Shutra then stomped on the mount's saddle to leap up. He sprang toward the charging Cassius, shouting, "Let's see what you've got. The beast fist I've trained so long." Magic began to gather in Shutra's hand. The alpha Cassius let out an angry roar, fangs bared. He gritted his teeth, a light flashing in his eyes, magic power concentrating strongly in his hand. Shutra threw a straight punch at the alpha, the Seismic Fist. The two on the other side gaped in astonishment. One strike from him tore that wolf into pieces. Shutra's face tilted down slightly, his sharp eyes fixed on the creature. The remaining beasts panicked and recoiled. They immediately tucked their tails and fled. He watched, bewildered. What was that? Shutra looked at his hand and wondered. Had the Seismic Fist amplified his aura? This destructive power was several times greater than he'd expected. He smiled with excitement. This almost reached Caitlyn level. After witnessing that, Karma immediately circled Shutra, praising him non-stop. "Incredible, your highness, you blew off the Alpha Cassius with a single blow," and the man also hurriedly spoke up. "Thank you so much for saving us, your highness." They then followed him as he introduced himself. "My name is Swift Wind, a scout assigned to escort you. From now on I'll guide you to the Centaur settlement on the Anger Plains." As they walked away, Cassius's body emitted a purple vapor that drifted upward. The Anger Plains, settlement of the Centaurs. Shutra looked down and exhaled softly. Finally arrived. For Centaur tribes lived on these plains: Storm, Gale, Flame, and Night. Among them, the Flame tribe was the strongest, and their chieftain also served as the supreme leader uniting the others. A large centaur approached. "Welcome, you've traveled a long way and must be tired." He introduced himself. "I am Savage Eyes, supreme leader of the centaurs." Shutra looked at the man and judged silently. Anyone who'd played Night Saga, Demon Region would recognize this name. He's unavoidable. He met his cold eyes and decided. Not an ally, but an enemy. Karak whispered into Shutra's ear, true to his name. His gaze is as sharp as a blade. Shutra didn't answer him but said, "I am Shutra, the ninth prince." Savage narrowed his eyes, staring at him with a probing look. Shutra fixed his cold eyes on him and said, "I want to hear your assessment of the current situation." They then entered the centaur's tent. Savage pointed to a spot on the map and said, "Honestly, the situation isn't good at all." 3 locations were marked on the map in different red symbols. The Cassius packs that should have been far north had moved south earlier than usual. He spoke gravely. Scouts are now surveying the surrounding area. Some think a few Cassius may have been separated from their pack. Hearing this, Shutra considered the enemy. In the game, Savage Eyes is an NPC you can't recruit, never an ally. Savage folded his arms and continued. "Over the next 3 days, warriors from all 4 tribes will gather here. When the alliance forms, we can crush those beasts anywhere." But he still hoped silently that this time things might be different. Shutra asked, "Understood, I'll wait. Anything else?" Savanj's voice dropped as he asked, "Ninth Prince." He questioned him seriously. "Is it true you shattered a Cassius's skull with a single punch?" Shutra smiled calmly and replied, "Yes." He guessed that perhaps Savage Eyes might become an ally this time. Shutra smiled, raised his fist and said plainly, "If you wish, I can show you later." He thought to himself, just like how Caitlyn and Chris became my allies. Savanj's eyes lost some of their coldness as he looked at him and replied, I look forward to it. Night began to fall in the centaur's tent. Those present all turned to look with curiosity. As he walked, he heard the murmurs around him. It's the ninth prince, the one who smashed Akashus's skull with a single blow. Karak exclaimed at the sight like General Bandal before. Fame really does follow you. Shutra laughed and said, of course. He acted confidently and smugly said, it's all thanks to my innate charisma and virtue. Hearing that, Karak was speechless. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Then Karak reminded him, rest now, your highness. Shutra was now lying inside the tent. He closed his eyes and lay there, snoring softly. Suddenly a light appeared above Shutra's head. He opened his eyes immediately, looking up in confusion. Shutra's arm had unconsciously activated, continuously absorbing a stream of some magic, the seismic fist. He anxiously touched his hand in shock. What is this? When did it cling to my hand? At that moment a girl's voice rang out in the void. Ninth Prince Shutra Ignis. Startled, Shutra raised his head and looked up. A little girl appeared, flying down from the air, saying, I need your help. Seeing her, he stammered, Who are you? The girl answered, I am a shard of the Watcher Ankle. Her entire body was made of vines and leaves that floated upward. She looked down at Shutra and continued, Green wind. He muttered after hearing it, Green wind. Shutra immediately recalled the lore. If it's green wind, then it's one of the natural spirits worshipped by the centaurs and satyrs. In the Night Saga world setting, the Anger Plains remain verdant thanks to the power of green wind. Leaves rose and swirled on the wind, controlled by green wind. The girl said, this is my homeland. Before them stood a building flanked by 2 blue flames still burning, where the shard of the Watcher Ankle, my source, resides. He looked over and murmured, the shard of Ankle, wait. Realizing this, Shutra was startled. The Watcher Ankle is one of the 6 High Dragon Stars. High Dragon Stars are divine beings in Night Saga that players can never confront. He stared at his hand, shocked by what was happening. I'd only just received Enkidu's seismic fist, and now the Watcher Ankle too. What is going on? Can't be mere coincidence. Green Wind said anxiously, Prince, there's no time. Monsters from the north are descending toward my homeland. The girl continued. Their goal is to steal the life force of the Anger Plains. They will destroy this place and devour my spirit. Green Wind assured him, but you can protect this land. Shutra, hearing that, was flustered. Me? My level is still very low. The girl blurted out, haven't you already obtained Enkidu's power? Green Wind's hand reached out and activated magic. Don't worry. The shard of Ankle will make you stronger. First, show that proof to my descendants. Shutra was then transported back to his room. He looked at the thing in his hand in amazement. The object in Shutra's hand looked like a glowing piece of green wood. Green Wind's voice murmured that it would surely help him. In the night a voice barked out, what do you mean? Savanj asked anxiously, is Green Wind in danger? Shutra then told him what he knew. There's a small shrine to the northeast, and according to Green Wind, the Cassius Pax will soon attack that place. He urged, there's no time, we must muster the troops and depart at once. Hearing this, Savanj hesitated. It's hard to mobilize on words alone. Immediately a blue light appeared. Shutra presented the piece of wood. Savanj recognized it at once. It was Green Wind's sacred relic. At that point he no longer declined and asked seriously, what must I do? The scene shifted to the next morning as dawn light spilled down. Footsteps rang out steadily and in order. All centaurs in the tribe who could fight had taken up full arms. Shutra was now riding his mount among them. He looked at the map and said, we can finally see it. Seeing the shrine shrouded in magical wards ahead, Shutra wondered, is that Green Wind's shrine? He thought to himself that without the small map he never would have found a shrine in such a spot. At that moment the man ahead's expression darkened as he said, Chief, over there. Before them was a pack of Cassius, but Shutra couldn't help but feel puzzled. How did the Cassius know Green Wind's dwelling? He began to suspect that something was wrong, that there was something he didn't yet know. Savanj told Shutra the numbers were larger than expected and asked, Prince, do you have a plan? He recalled Green Wind saying he could gain power from Ankle's shard. Surely that thing was in the shrine. So Shutra decided, I'll enter the shrine. Don't let them get close. He replied, understood. He signaled his mount to surge forward and told the 2 behind him, Karak, Karma, let's go. They followed, answering, yes, your highness. Outside, Savanj immediately shouted to his tribesmen, do not let those bastards into the shrine. He gave the order, everyone prepare for battle. Then he yelled, charge. At his command, the centaur tribe surged forward brandishing weapons. The archers immediately took tight formation, aiming straight ahead. A rain of arrows shot at the Cassius in front. Next, the line of swordbearers charged in swiftly. They cut into the monsters in a brutal slaughter. Once the path was cleared, Shutra's group immediately dashed forward. Chasing the dwarven tribesmen, one asked, "Prince, we just need to reach the shrine, right?" He answered, "That's right." Seeing that, he ran ahead and said, "Then we'll clear the way." Karak swung his axe up. He cut down the rushing Cassius one after another. Next, Karma was no less impressive and dealt with the remaining ones. Shutra smiled as he rode forward. "Good. My teammates are doing great." He ran ahead saying, "All right, we're almost there." Suddenly, a wooden beam fell down near Shutra. A centaur unexpectedly attacked him. Shutra and his mount were immediately thrown off. The thing had a massive body, holding a mace in its hand, and it roared. Then it charged forward with its weapon. Shutra startled and thought to himself, "Damn, I was careless." At that moment Karak appeared in front of him. He checked, "Are you okay, Prince?" At that moment a sharp claw mark appeared on Karak's shoulder. Shutra breathed a little easier and said, "Karak." Karak turned to him and said, "Get up. This is no time for sleeping." Suddenly the half-man, half-horse demon roared and rushed in. It repeatedly attacked Karak. He fought back with his weapon as well. Shutra didn't stand idle either and grabbed his weapon. "What's up, Karak? Acting all tough but tired already, huh?" He plunged his knife into the ground and shouted loudly, "Under the king's banner." Shutra yelled, "Now comes the real attack." As if reinvigorated, Karak quickly struck the monster. It was startled and couldn't react in time, getting hit. He rushed in and landed several blows on the creature. Karak let out fierce battle cries. Then he swung again, slicing across the creature's body. It immediately screamed, blood spouting and flesh tearing from its mouth. Finally, he leaped up and brought his axe down toward its head. A finishing blow ended the creature. The surrounding earth and rock trembled and cracked. Dust and smoke billowed everywhere as the battle raged. Karak warned, "Your Highness, go quickly. Leave this to me." Shutra didn't hesitate and ran off, saying, "I trust you." He was now close to the shrine. He pushed the door open and rushed inside. Her voice rang out in the void, "Hurry." Shutra stopped and listened. "Green wind." Then a stream of magic spread from his arm. Green wind whispered, "The sanctified relic of Enkidu will guide you." Shutra followed the magic. The energy was leading deeper into the shrine. The energy threaded throughout the interior of the shrine. He followed it until he reached a tree trunk. Before Shutra stood a large, lush tree. Suddenly a small branch grew out from inside the tree and reached down. He looked up and couldn't help but startle. The vines transformed into a hand that offered something before Shutra. Seeing it, he was astonished. Inside was a clear stone encased by branches, the heart of the dragon. Shutra marveled at its origin. The magical power every dragon possesses, the dragon heart. He murmured that this must be what Einkel's shard referred to. Fong appeared and said that for a long time the Anger Plains maintained peace thanks to the magic of the overseer Einkel. The girl added that this shrine is the center of that magic, originating from Einkel's shard. If this place is destroyed, peace will collapse. Green Wind's words were earnest. "Please awaken the ancient magic of Einkel that still lingers in this shrine and stop them." Hearing that, Shutra was puzzled. "The ancient magic of Einkel?" Outside, Savan shouted, "Do not fall back. Absolutely do not let them enter the shrine." Karak was fighting with all his strength. For him, Karma kept hacking at the Cassius with his knife. Green Wind hovered behind him and softly spoke, "I trust you, Ninth Prince." Shutra moved closer to the dragon heart. With the magical power she left, "Please protect the Anger Plains and my descendants." His hand gently touched the stone. Immediately a current of air began to rise around him. Shutra startled and looked up. Before him appeared a spirit beast staring intently, with a stag's horn and enormous wings. He instantly recognized it as Overseer Einkel. The Old One's eyes flashed with a mysterious light as it said, "Receive this." Then a stream of magic surged directly into Shutra's body. The shrine immediately radiated a brilliant blue light. A pillar of light shot straight into the sky for all to see. Everyone who saw it gaped in amazement. Karak looked up in confusion. "The prince?" Suddenly vines began to crawl up from the ground. Those vines wrapped themselves around the shrine. Gradually the ordinary trees around them sprang to life as if awakened. Faces appeared in those tree trunks before their eyes. The monsters saw this and immediately recoiled in terror. Then the trees, like guardians of the shrine, attacked the Cassius. Sharp trunks sliced across the bodies of the creatures. Thus the battle unfolded in chaotic fury, yet it was also stirring. Green Wind looked up in a daze and whispered, "It's complete. The ancient magic of Einkel has awakened." Shutra still stared ahead in a daze. The girl approached, joyful. Thank you sincerely, Ninth Prince. Because of you, his hand remained on the dragon heart stone. The brilliant light grew ever more blinding. Green Wind stood stunned. Shutra's eyes went milky and unfocused. His hand instinctively pressed the stone, energy pouring into his body without stop. Green Wind exclaimed, "Why is Ankel's magic flowing into you?"
Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more awesome content.